Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding. All right. If you are sick of hearing endless streams and debates on if Christians and Muslims worship the same God, this is the stream for you, because we're not talking about that. That is the last we're talking about it here right now. We're moving on.
We can still talk about it.
No, we're done. We're done with that topic forever. Never again. All done. We're moving on. This is stupid.
But Superman.
All right.
So that means all the super chats are going to be about that topic.
Yeah. Cue all of them being about it.
I will. Fine. If super chats come in, I will acknowledge them and be angry about it. I'll be very, very angry. But I've been looking forward to this all week because, oh boy, we all three of us got a lovely response from four. Correct. My mistake. I forgot about David down there. I forgot he's in the video. The four of us got a response from the lovely Muslim YouTuber Deen Responds, where he decided to address us all, and boy, was that!
Oh wait,
that was something.
This is addressed to me too.
You're in there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're all here, David.
I thought someone was coming after you, and you called in for backup.
That's why I called Giant DOC here. They're the best at this, so that's why they're here. And then you were in there too, so I guess we can invite David too. I guess I don't know, something like that. And yeah. So, one of my favorite things about this response, guys, is Jai, DOC, you guys speak Arabic, right?
Yes, we do.
And I thought I had heard the limit of dumb until his newest came back.
Well,
and he actually tried to read the Arabic, embarrassed himself.
Well, yeah, Dean who doesn't speak Arabic, is here to correct you guys on Arabic. That's what happens in this video. And I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't take this down before we get a chance to review it. This is going to be amazing. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, it's more that I don't know who he's trying to correct or what he's trying to correct, because what he's saying doesn't actually apply to us or to David, because David's the one making the point. It doesn't actually apply to what we're saying or what David is saying. And he doesn't understand what he's reading. I think that's the most problematic part. That's what Dr. Christ was referring to. Yeah. It's like he's trying to give an explanation of Arabic grammar, and he just completely fumbles through it. And we'll try to explain how when we get there.
Yeah, we will. So we'll get into that here. Real quick, I'm going to take this super chat that came in early. Is there any historical evidence for the apostles' martyrdom? Yes, there is some. For example, Josephus mentions James the Just being martyred in Jerusalem. We do have some later Christian sources, and like First Clement seems to refer to the martyrdom of Peter and Paul in Rome. People trash Eusebius sometimes. He mentions a lot of the apostles' martyrdom, but I think historians lately are starting to realize he's a lot more reliable than he is. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's also not like this completely unreliable historian. For one thing, some people thought he concocted the testimonium in Josephus. And now a lot of historians are going, no, he actually preserves a pretty accurate version of it. So yeah, I think there's some good evidence for it. Of course, you can always read Sean McDowell's book on the level of accuracy on these things. It's not going to be, perfect, but there is that, for example.
I've got a video on my channel where I interviewed Sean McDowell on all of this, and he went through all the sources, and he went apostle by apostle and said what case there is for what happened to them and so on. So yeah, that's on my channel.
Good, excellent. So all right.
Hey, I did want to point out on this Islamic dilemma stuff. Just wanted to point out for Muslims who are watching, and for everyone else who's watching, notice the standard Muslim belief is that what the Quran is actually claiming is that Allah revealed books for Jews and Christians, and that Jews and Christians corrupted those books, and therefore our books are no longer reliable, and that's why we're supposed to convert to Islam and just go with the Quran. And if there's any use to be made of the Torah and the gospel, it's only after you go to the Quran, read the Quran, then go filter out everything that doesn't line up with the Quran. And in addition to that, somehow the Bible contains prophecies about Muhammad. Those are reliable. Other things aren't reliable, but those things are still reliable. And so if Muslims can find anything that they say by a stretch of the imagination is talking about Muhammad, we have to go with that, even though we have to reject other things. And so our book is good enough to defend their religion, but not our own religion, because anything that would defend our own religion would be corrupted. And so that's what they think the Quran is saying. That's what they think it's saying. And so notice if they're correct, if Muslims are correct, and that is what Allah is saying in the Quran, this should be a very easy discussion. These should all be very easy discussions. It should be, here's the chapter, here's the verse where Allah says this. Yeah. Notice it's never that. It's hey, we're going to this commentator, that commentator, and this commentator. We're going to twist this into this, and we're going to come up with some insane translation of this, and then by magic we get the view that that we decided ahead of time it was correct. And anyway, this is just really bad. Just big picture. Notice it's never, here's chapter and verse of the Quran that says what we're claiming.
Right.
Why? Why is it never that? Because the Quran doesn't say it. And that's kind of our point.
Yeah.
Rename Tawheed to Daweed and David becomes a Muslim, says the nuclear Mahdi Jew.
That's true. If all Muslims do that, I will become a Muslim.
Excellent, excellent. So if you guys want to put a super chat in, we're streaming to my channel and Giant DC's channel. You guys don't have super chats enabled though, right?
No.
Pathetic. So if you guys want to put a super chat, we'll look at it, but you got to come over to this stream, unfortunately, until they get that set up. So anyway, let's get into this video. I'm excited because
just before we get into it, I just have a request real quick from you guys. So would you guys because you guys are both philosophers, so this topic comes up quite a bit, especially with Dean. I've been watching his responses with Chris from Speaker's Corner. Well, to be honest, I've been watching Chris's videos where he's showing like the responses. I haven't been watching Dean's videos, but this is something that he brings up a lot. The difference between an internal argument and an external argument in the context of the Islamic dilemma. It sounds like I think what would be helpful is if like one of you guys can like define the Islamic dilemma and like include, does that mean you have to also grant like scholars that come 700 years later, for example, because it's an internal critique or something, so you have to grant everything that if you guys could just break that down, because I feel like that side is still kind of confused on what the argument actually is.
I will say real quick, I actually want to say we should start saying the Islamic dilemma is a modified internal critique. And I'll explain why in a minute. So like the Islamic dilemma, of course, the Quran affirms the gospel and the Torah. So, okay, that's a problem because we can see that our scriptures contradict the Quran. So the Quran is false, but if the Quran is affirming corrupted scriptures, then the Quran is also false. So that's the Islamic dilemma. Here's what I would say an internal critique is when we look into the religion of Islam, we can use things within Islam to debunk it itself. That doesn't mean we have to agree with every single scholar that wrote or came later. They can be used for supporting aspects. But if they're contradicting what the Quran says, we have every right to reject them, which I've seen a lot of these modern Islamic scholars do. Now, when I say it's a modified internal critique, typically what an internal critique is like someone looks at like the Bible and they see the theology of the Bible and go, yeah, your God allows evil, but he also says he's all good. These two things shouldn't exist. That's an internal contradiction. Now, the Islamic dilemma is a modified internal critique, because it doesn't just appeal to its own scriptures. It appeals to the Christian and the Jewish scriptures as well. So we have to, by definition, include those scriptures as well in the critique, because the Quran invokes them. This is why it's a modified internal critique, because it's invoking those scriptures. So we have to go look at them to see what's in there. So it's an internal critique of Islam, but it's modified in the sense that it's including Jewish and Christian scriptures. So it's an internal critique, but it's not a pure internal critique, as we're not only appealing to Islamic scriptures, we're also looking to Jewish and Christian scriptures. But the Quran assumes those are also technically like divine scriptures and therefore would be Islamic. So this is why it's still an internal critique. Just note it's a modified in that sense. I hope that makes sense, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
when you were saying modified internal critique, I was thinking, well, you could think of it as all internal, because they also affirm the Torah and the gospel, and so that's part of their. But then you said it anyway, so you could look at it either way. You guys, you could look at it as a modified internal critique, that we're criticizing whether the Quran is coherent based on what it says about our scriptures, but we have to go to our scriptures to look, and so that you could consider that part external. Or you could look at it as, well, the Quran is affirming all these scriptures, so these are all supposedly internal to Islam, and that's kind of what we're pointing out, is that they don't fit together. That Islam is just incoherent.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Giles, or something else?
So basically, I get, because what they keep arguing is, and I have my own response to it, but I'm really curious to hear you guys' philosophical answer to it. They keep saying, oh, because you're arguing from our worldview, you can't argue based on like a sola scriptura kind of thing, because we don't just accept the Quran, we also accept scholarship. So you have to grant us our scholarship. Otherwise, it's not a true internal critique. And so, like what you said, if their scholars contradict the Quran, then they're stuck, right?
Yeah. So the problem is, of course, is that you have contradictory Islamic scholars.
That too.
So
Tons of them.
So if they want to do that, I mean, like, they just open the floodgates of just Islam is hopelessly contradictory in so many other ways. So you can make all sorts of different types of dilemmas. They don't realize the problem with it. What they're saying is they want to do an internal critique, but they want to cherry pick the scholars. If they want to do that, I'm going to bring up things like the Sirah, which says the Gospel of John is the Injil, or the Sirah also says on page 653 that Paul was an apostle. Like, this is good. This is just them shooting themselves in the foot. The video I posted last Friday, another Islamic dilemma, you looked at some of those scriptures showing that, using places like Surah 61:14, 355 as a second Islamic dilemma on them. So they can try that, but I would just push back and say, you just open the floodgate to hopelessly contradictory nonsense. How far does it go? Like, what about like modern Islamic scholars? What if I want to use Sean Anthony? Sean Anthony is a modern Islamic scholar. Last time you were on my channel last week, you two, is that we showed he actually thinks the Islamic dilemma is successful when he was replying to Khalil Andani. So is he included? Because he is an Islamic scholar technically. So how far did this go? Really, it's just them cherry picking, deciding the threshold and the line. It doesn't work. I'm just thinking of all the ways this opens a floodgate to just so many more problems for them. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, and there are more problems. So you pointed out problem with the methodology in general, in terms that they're actually just cherry picking. So, hey, we believe in going to scholarship. Notice, by the way, everyone, that's kind of an admission that they're not going to the Quran, right? If if the Quran agreed with them, they could show chapter and verse from the Quran where their view is proclaimed by Allah. They can't. And that's why they have to go to outside sources, usually to much later Muslim sources who were aware of the problem by that time, and therefore are saying things about our scriptures being corrupted and so on. So notice the problems this gives rise to. If you're saying, but we have to go with if you're giving a critique of what the Quran says, you have to go with what our scholars say. Okay, your scholars contradict each other left and right. like it's a sport. You can go to a verse of the Quran and go to 10 different commentators and get 10 different explanations of what it means. So are we bound by that? If so, your problems with the coherence of Islam just went through the roof. Because if we're taking them as authoritative and they're all contradicting each other, that means that you have all these authoritative commentators contradicting each other, and your religion falls apart on that basis. So anyway, all this picking and choosing nonsense. It really smacks of innovation. If you can't show where Allah is saying it, and all you can do is show where some Muslim is saying it, and it's the opposite of what Allah says, according to Muhammad, you're worshiping the scholar. If Allah says one thing and your scholar says something else, you're actually worshiping your scholar. So yeah, tell us about your wonderful religion of worshiping your scholars. But in addition to all that, are they going to grant the same thing for us? If they say, hey, where did Jesus claim that he's God? Are we allowed to just say, well, here's a later Christian who said he's God?
That's a good point.
Yeah, right.
Are we allowed to do that? Are they going to grant that if you're deciding what Jesus said, you can say what any later scholar says, or give any interpretation of any later scholar about what Jesus says? In other words, this is very interesting. If he's going to use that, and say this is how you have to come in Islam, great. We need to bring that up when we're talking about Christianity. And if they say, where did Jesus say this? And we say, oh, in this verse, and they go, that's not what that means. All we have to do is say, well, this later Christian scholar says it, and therefore you can't deny it, because see, they would never grant that. So everything is cherry picking, even their methodology. They will go to an issue and just make up any method to confirm their position. And there's no scenario where they're going to be consistent with that method, because you can't be. That's the point. You can't be consistent with this. You do not have a coherent position.
Alhamdulillah.
And even with us, they would go further. They would say, no, I want red letters within the gospel.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Not anymore.
Right. They used to do that. So they don't even grant us the gospel.
Yeah.
So for them, it's all wide open
Double
for us.
standard.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Seriously, think about like the insane hypocrisy here. We're saying, hey, the Quran affirms our scriptures, and they say, no, it's just parts, and they're constantly trying to narrow it in on what actually counts as revelation from Allah. And then when we go to there, it's, oh yeah, it's not just the words of the Quran, it's not just the words of Muhammad, it's the words of any guy who ever came, and that's all Islam. And we could go to anything and any of that. I mean, don't you see the like insane hypocrisy? I mean,
yeah, and that's
like insane.
That's also not an internal critique, going on what David said, because when an atheist attacks Christianity and they make an internal critique from the problem of evil and suffering, they don't get this. We don't say, oh yeah, but I could cite Clay Jones, William Lane Craig, these later philosophers, because they're in the Christian tradition, right? Therefore it's solved. No, they're not going to accept that. So that's not an internal critique, the way they're setting it up. And you could just see the problems unfolding the more we talk about it. So yeah, this is really them just reinventing what an internal critique is, not actually understanding the issue. If this is the case, we as Christians would not need to come up with theodicies for the problem of evil, because we just say, well, yeah, well, our scholars already solved that. Read Augustine, or read John Calvin or someone like that. Boom, like utter nonsense. So yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. All right, so I see the super chats piling up. I'm going to get to them, but I really want to play Dean's first argument first, and then we'll jump back into super chats. So keep sending them in, but I'm really excited about this first argument from Deen. So, inspiring philosophy refutes the Islamic dilemma in under 2 minutes, according to Deen Responds. You guys ready? You ready to hear me refute the Islamic dilemma?
Ready to hear you destroy this thing.
Oh man, it's over. It's over.
Wreck it.
But it doesn't confirm it's not from the Book of Allah. And Barawi lists all of these. He literally lists most of these interpretations from the Salaf. And then he says they all have the same general meaning, which is, and then he says what I just said, which involves preparation.
This is Deen.
The guy who's speaking is Deen?
Yeah.
He's usually on camera, but he's just on mic today.
Where's that accent?
I think he's Australian, isn't he?
I have no clue. I thought he was American. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, so this speaking is Deen, and who's he with? I can't see it on the screen. Leafy. Deen and Leafy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Say that it means anything like criterion or supreme authority. If it was going to use that kind of word, it would use what it uses in Surah 253. We gave Moses the scriptures and criterion.
Oh, so if
Here
it
we
did
go.
say criterion for the Quran in the context of the previous scriptures,
Oh.
then it would mean that the Quran is filtering. Okay, no problem. Let's hold you to that. With confirming what came before, as he revealed the Torah and the Gospel. Okay. Previously as a guide for the people, and also revealed the decisive authority, the same word, the criterion. The
الفرقان.
same word used, talking about the scripture given to Musa alayhi salam. So keep your word. You said, yeah, it would follow if it does say Furqan. Okay, it says Furqan for the Quran in the context of the previous scriptures. There you go. Like these guys are complete juhal. And these
Something tells me he's not going to keep his promise.
So right there, it's Moses who got something that's a criterion, but that's not what's the word that is being used in 548. That's what the word you would want to use if you were saying the Quran is correcting the prior scriptures. Or
all right, there you go. Islamic dilemma finished then. Khalas.
Wait.
All right, let's go home, bro.
Telling you what's true and what is false, and that's not what it says.
All right, look guys. So I'll go live tomorrow around the same time.
Guys. It was a nice stream.
Thank you for coming on. Assalamu alaikum. All right, guys. So we're gonna end it here. Bye.
He thought he cooked. He thought it was he's like, that's it. It's over. It's over, guys. He thought he cooked.
Oh boy.
He didn't even boil eggs.
No, that was a huge fail. Yeah, why don't you recap your argument one more time, and then we'll show some commentaries to see if they support what he was saying or not.
Why are they always so fast to run away?
Yeah.
We're here for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah,
Okay,
let me put this up here. So it says, we've revealed to you this book with truth as a confirmation of previous scriptures and a Muhaymin, that's what they translate there, on them.
Hey, by the way, what translation is this that they use? That doesn't make any sense.
This one I have on the screen.
Yeah, do we know what translation is this? Because they just as they pick and choose their commentaries, they pick and choose their translations, and this one just makes no sense in terms of what earlier Muslims said about it. And again, it even leads to shirk, because if you're saying this means supreme authority, then the Muslims who interpreted Muhaymin as Muhammad over the Quran would mean that Muhammad is the supreme authority over the Quran, and he gets to decide what is and is not true in the Quran, or what is and what is not correct in the Quran. So anyway, there are all sorts of problems with that, but it's like, what I don't even know what translation they're going, because I don't see when I pull that up, it's not what my translations say.
It's just what Quran.com is. I don't know what's one they specifically use on there, but that's what everyone tends to use and go to. Right. But I mean, there's the basic argument I was saying here is that the reason why they always go to 548 is because when they say it's the Muhaymin, so over here they it says a Muhaymin on them. This line here, Muhaymin on them, so it is not in Surah 3. Doesn't say that. It just says Furqan, as he showed. So he tries to make this connection to Surah 3, and he's like, oh, but the Quran is called the criterion, but it doesn't say it's a criterion on them. This is why they have to use this one constantly. And they're not using Surah 3 because it doesn't actually say in Surah 3.
Oh, I get what you were saying. Yeah. So here,
Deen didn't miss that part.
Yeah. So everyone pay attention. Yeah. So he didn't touch what you said then.
No, because
it sounded like it did. It sounded like it did until I caught on to what you were actually saying. So guys, you have two issues. You have in Surah 5 verse 48, the Quran refers to a Muhaymin over something else, and that's usually translated as like guardian or protector or something like that. There are a bunch of translations, and so obviously they're going to pick and choose, and when they can't find one from their commentators, they'll just make one up like they do in this case. But they'll say that Muhaymin means supreme authority, and so they say, this means supreme authority over these scriptures. And then it's I guess IP pointed out, well, no, it's that's not what Muhaymin means. If you wanted to say it's a criterion over them, if it said it's a criterion over them and that it's deciding what's true and false, that would be different. And then they say, but this other passage does call the Quran a criterion. So ha, you've been refuted. And you were saying, no, it would have to be criterion over them.
Yeah.
You'd have to replace Muhaymin with criterion for Khan, and then say criterion over these scriptures. Then you could make your argument, but that's not what you have. And his response is, oh, but it says the Quran is a criterion over here, not criterion over the previous scriptures, as would be the case in 548, if that's the word that was used, but not. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep, that is correct.
And it's interesting that he doesn't go to any commentaries to back that up. So he's going to chapter 3, verses 3 and 4. And so 3 and 4, before I read the commentary that's on the screen right now, I just want to, this is what he was appealing to, really verse 4, where it refers to, Allah revealing the Furqan. And Deen's argument was that because you have Furqan here, it must be Furqan over the Torah and the Gospel, and we're going to see that's
makes zero sense of the passage. And I can see why he didn't bring up any commentaries, because the commentaries are all over the place on this one. They can't even agree on what the Furqan is. Yeah,
they can't even agree on what it is, and that's at one point. They don't. A lot of them don't even agree on the meaning of Furqan. We were going through a commentary the other day. I think we're on. Was it chapter 8 in the Quran for the Islamic Dilemma and project? And what we saw was there was 5 or 6 definitions for what some scholars were saying what Furqan means. But let's say criterion, right? We'll say criterion. That's pretty much the mainstream understanding of it. If you go to chapter 2, verse 53, you have from Ibn Abbas saying that this Furqan, which is the criterion, that's a comprehensive name for the Torah, the Gospel, the Psalms, and the Furqan. So it's like a name for all of Allah's books. Okay, so and then specifically for verse 4, because he talked about verse 4, when it's talking about from before, meaning this Quran's revelation, a guidance for all the people. It appears that this refers back to everything that came before, meaning Allah sent down the Quran, the Torah, and the Gospel as a guidance for people from misguidance. Okay, and then it goes on to say, and he sent down al-Furqan, meaning the conclusive proofs, evidence, decisive arguments, and etc., etc. So it seems the commentaries here are saying that the Furqan that Allah sent down is like what Ibn Abbas said. It's comprehensive for all the books that Allah sent down, and so you can take Furqan criterion to mean being able to distinguish truth from falsehood, but it's not using the Quran on the Torah and the Gospel. Right. It's using the books of Allah on anything else,
on all the people, all the matters,
whatever anyone says. If it goes against what these books say, well, then you choose the books to judge by it. If it's in line with them, then you say that they're correct. If it's not in line with them, you say that they're not correct.
It's basically for people who want brevity, is this part here, which Ibn Abbas says towards the end. All the books of Allah are the Furqan. They're all a criterion. So how can a criterion be over another criterion? That means that first criterion is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes no sense to call all of them a criterion if all of them are going to decide between right and wrong.
Right.
Yep.
Over each other, I mean. They have to be like a unit together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes far more sense than what Deen was trying to say there. I mean, but again, it doesn't even use the right Arabic, because it doesn't use the Arabic of 548 to say it's a Furqan over the prior scriptures. I saw that immediately and just started laughing, and that's when I messaged you guys. I'm like, oh, we got to respond to this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I got a quick question. If and by the way, IP, if you want to pull up that passage,
which one?
3 through 4. You can see
you
can see why Muslim commentators are confused. We'll see what this translation says. Okay, so looky here. He has revealed to you, O Prophet, the book in truth, confirming what came before it, as he revealed the Torah and the Gospel previously as a guide for the people, and he also revealed the decisive authority. So decisive authority there, ladies and gentlemen, is for Khan, and they're saying, aha, this calls the Quran the criterion or the Furqan, and then they're saying that is the decisive authority. Interesting translation, but just look at what it's saying. It sounds like it's talking about something that's not simply the Quran. Why? Because it just talked about the Quran, and then it's saying other things that Allah has revealed. So just read it. He has revealed to you, O Prophet. So this is Allah speaking to Muhammad. He has revealed to you, O Prophet, the book. What's the book? What's the book that's revealed to Muhammad? The Quran. So he has revealed to you, Muhammad, the Quran, confirming what came before it, as he revealed the Torah and the gospel previously as a guide for the people, and also revealed the decisive authority. Doesn't it sound like he's given like a list of things? That's why some Muslims have thought this refers to the Psalms or actually another book, but you could totally interpret it as something like wisdom and arguments or something like that are helping you understand things, or as just a collection because the Quran mentions all kinds of other revelations given to other prophets and things like that. So anyway, that's what you can interpret this in a lot of different ways. But I have to say, if you're just interpreting Furqan as Quran there, and some translations will just put Quran there, interpreting Furqan to mean Quran. If you're just saying that's the Quran, then what this verse would be saying is, "O Prophet, Allah revealed to you the Quran, and he revealed the Torah and the gospel and the Quran."
Right.
That sounds kind of weird. That sounds kind of weird.
It does. You're absolutely right.
The Quran does sound weird. The Quran does sound weird.
I know.
That's why they accept the weirdness, and they just assume Allah repeats it twice.
Yeah, like even in 548, we're gonna get into that one a little bit later because it comes up in the video. But it is very. If you take these, like, the words mean different things, even though it's the same word being used, different things, different times. But yeah, like David was saying, that you can see why Muslim scholars would take that in different ways. But what you don't see Muslim scholars doing, which is why you didn't see Deen doing this, is say what he said. None of them say what he just said.
Exactly.
None of them say that the Quran is the criterion over these previous books. So
I want to see that.
Yeah,
I would have wanted to see that.
If he had it, he should have showed it, because from what I remember, he goes to commentaries for everything else he says in the video, but this one thing that he thinks destroys the Islamic dilemma under 2 minutes.
It's not there.
It's not there.
What we want from you is Furqanan alayhim.
Yeah.
Furqan over them, meaning the previous books. That doesn't appear in the Quran and doesn't appear in the commentary.
From our knowledge, yeah.
Oh, one more thing. If think about again the insane level of hypocrisy. Suppose we grant that Furqan there is the Quran, and that it's saying the Quran is the decisive authority. Okay, and he wants us to apply that to the Torah and the gospel, and make the Quran the decisive authority over the Torah and the gospel. If you interpreted Quran as decisive authority and said that it's the Quran, wouldn't that make the Quran the decisive authority over the later commentators who contradict it? And we're supposed to go with those later commentators. In other words, when he's quoting, this commentator says this, wouldn't we just say, but that's not, the Quran does not say that, and the Quran is the decisive authority. So one, if you're saying the Quran is the decisive authority over these other scriptures, which it doesn't say, obviously it would be the decisive authority over human beings who are just saying stuff and making stuff up later. I mean, obviously. But then if you wanted to say, as some of the commentators said, this is referring to all the books, something like that, then all the books would be the decisive authority over other things, especially including later Muslim commentators who contradict all the books. And so this is what I mean. You just have to, it's like, whatever I need to say, this is their reasoning. Whatever I have to say in the moment to respond to anything, whatever I have to make up, whatever rules I have to make up, just make them up and say it. And who cares if it completely contradicts everything else I say? And it's just weird. This is Dawah, guys.
Yeah. Yep. That makes me think of something, David. As you said that, I just got this thought that, okay, so if that's what the Quran's setting itself up as, like this criterion over even everything the scholars say, well, that also mean like the Sunnah as well, because that puts Muslims in a bind, because you have some schools of Islam that say that Muhammad's Sunnah, his practice, can actually abrogate the Quran, like Muta, for example. So, but if the Quran says something,
is the decisive authority,
right? Exactly. So then you have a problem there, I guess, unless you say there's like an inbuilt system in the Quran that says you have to follow the Sunnah. Maybe you can make that argument, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just thought of that.
But guys, the Quran is clear. It said so.
Yeah, it's so clear.
Guys, come on.
And yet uses the same word Al-Furqan for all the books.
Yeah.
And then you have to guess which one he means.
Yeah. Even the word Al-Kitab, like the book, even that word, they don't know what it means. In most, like for example, in chapter 2, verse 2, it says, in that book, in it there is no doubt, right? In that book, there's no doubt. So most of the commentators say that's the Quran, but some commentators say, well, that's actually referring to the Torah and the Gospel.
Yeah.
So because it uses this word Al-Kitab, the book, and they don't know what it means every time that it's used. And that's why you get you do get some confusing interpretations of some verses, because they don't know what does it mean here, what does it mean there, what does it mean there. It's definitely not clear though.
It's because it's an illiterate person where the Quran is coming from. The illiterate person sees every book as their book.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
can't read the title, so that's where it's coming from. That's in my opinion.
That's her theory. Yes.
All right, I'm going to get to some super chats because there was a bunch in there now. So Quran 36:30 says specifically that unseen things come in pairs. Muslims say this means matter and antimatter, particle and antiparticle, etc. Any refutations? Well, if they're saying that, then they need to study physics, because particles and antiparticles don't come together. Like if you combine them, you create an explosion. That's silly, and that's also not what the verse says. I looked it up here. Let me see if I got the right one here. Yeah, 36. It says, glory to the one who created all things in pairs, be it what the earth produces, their genders, or what they do not know. Okay, well, particles don't have genders. So that's not what the verse is referring to. That's silly. This is them, again, reaching very hard to try to find scientific miracles in the Quran.
Yeah, this is about creating the male and the female of everything to reproduce, which isn't even true biologically.
Yeah, so it's a good point. So instead of it being a scientific miracle, it's a scientific error. Yeshua is God, says we've got Avengers, philosophers, Arabics speaking Christians, and we don't worship same God as Muslims. Dawood, which I agree. Get this Diddy Deen. Okay, thank you. Hello, lovely gents and lady. Here's some money for Jim Jones. Oh, hi, Diddy Wood and Jai and Doc. Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know why I have to be Jim Jones, though. It's unfortunate. It's very Christianophobic of you. I'm a Christian looking for some answers from my fellow Christian brothers. Why does Ezekiel write this detailed vision of the Messianic era temple, which the redemption of sins offering animal sacrifice? So you have to remember, a lot of visions in the Bible are metaphorical. Like, just read Revelation, read Daniel. Okay, there's not literal beasts coming. These are metaphors. Visions typically come in those kind of ways. So you just can't go to Ezekiel and assume this is all meant to be literal. That's not what Ezekiel's getting at. It's looking forward to the new kingdom. We are now God's temple, and Christ has made the ultimate sacrifice, is what these things could be referring to. So don't read too much into visions.
And I just want to say, even if you did take it that way, you could look at it as before the cross, that all the sacrifices were pointing towards the cross, and then here we are afterwards. It's like sacrifices that, for example, the apostles were participating in at the temple and stuff, were pointing back to the cross. So they were looked at like that way, where it all points to Jesus in that way. Even if you wanted to take it that way, you could interpret like that.
Yeah. If Islam is so easy to debunk, why do you think Muslims still refute arguments Christians make about Islam, scientific miracles being wrong, etc.? Well, they don't. They just listen. They're pathological liars. They'll just lie about a lot of this stuff. Pretend, like we just saw what Deen did. He claimed to have refuted me, and what did he did? He just didn't actually show that it was a furqan over it in the verse. He ignored that very crucial part of Surah 548. So they claim to refute a lot of things, and like a lot of it's just really, really bad, is what I would say.
It is indeed terrible. But no, what you actually have in the Muslim community is you are told all your life something like, and you gave the example of scientific miracles. You hear from your family, from your imam, from the videos you watch and that you're sending each other. You're hearing all your life that the Quran is filled with scientific miracles. You've never read it. You don't know what's in there. You've just heard all your life the Quran is filled with all these countless scientific miracles, and they're just being confirmed today by NASA and everything else, right? You're told this all your life. You don't know. You've never examined it. You just don't know. Then a Christian comes along and says, there are no scientific miracles. This is all nonsense. You haven't read the passages. So who are you going to believe? You don't know what anyone's talking about.
Right.
You just side with the people who are confirming what you've heard all your life. And the Christian you're going to regard as the liar. Why? I've heard one consistent story my entire life. And the Christian's coming along and saying, nope, you've been fed a bunch of complete nonsense. It's the same thing with what we're talking about now. They've been told all their lives, here's what the Quran says. Then we come along and say, that's not what the Quran says. They haven't read the Quran. They don't know what's in there. They don't know what it says. They only know, here's what all of my religious authorities have told me all my life. And here's a Christian saying otherwise. So yeah, it takes a while. That's why this is kind of a back and forth thing. And it's going to go on for a long time because it's seriously difficult to show someone that everything they've heard for their entire life on some issue is just complete nonsense.
Yeah, and I have a theory about this. Actually, Daughter of Christ and I were just talking about this today. We were thinking about this, that maybe some years ago, every discussion you have with a Muslim, you'd hear, where did Jesus say, I am God, worship me? In those words. You'd hear that every conversation you have with a Muslim.
Yeah.
We don't hear it much anymore.
And we don't hear that much anymore. And so my thought is that as like the spread of the internet and the spread of more Dawah guys, they're getting more voices to where before it was like Zakir Naik, Ahmed Didat, like they were like the ones all the Muslims knew about, and they would all listen to their audios and their videos and all that stuff. Now you have so many different Muslim speakers, they don't have a unified script anymore. So that's why, especially with the Islamic dilemma, you have Muslims literally fighting each other with how to like answer Christians with this. There's not like an authority in the Dawah world where they can like, oh, everyone go listen to this guy, he's going to give you guys the response. You don't have like a Zakir Naik type anymore where everyone just repeats what he says now on like a mass scale. You have a bunch of fractioned groups that say a bunch of different things, and there's not like every Muslim saying the same thing, at least on that level anymore. I think it's died down a lot. Although I'm not saying that there's not like a universal Dawah script out there still, but I see it's dying down a lot because of the internet.
Yeah, for sure. When will Muslims get a decent argument to this? Oh man, well they first got to get on the same page, as Jai was just saying. They all disagree. I mean, like Dean's been getting in trouble because his solution to the Islamic dilemma is to say it's like the words of Jesus in the Gospels. And I mean, I love that solution. Go with it, because Jesus says he's God in places like Luke 6:46 and Matthew 7:21-22, where he says, Lord, Lord, as I pointed out before with the work of Jason Staples and Michael Patrick Barber on that. And more scholars are even picking that up now, I've noticed, that Jesus does directly claim to be Yahweh in those verses. So, I mean, like, who knows what they're going to try? It's kind of silly to watch them, though. I mean, they're scrambling over the Islamic dilemma, and everyone has got a different solution, and none of them can agree.
And none of them line up with anything Allah ever says.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, is he the one that's trying to popularize the Q? Like that's the Injil is Q. Is that
he's
him?
Saying now maybe I'm misunderstanding. He can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from what I understood, he's saying it's like it's like in the gospel.
Oh,
it's
so
the words
different.
of Jesus.
Okay.
So like Muhammad spoke the words of Allah according to them. Jesus, the red letter words, the words Jesus spoke are the Injil. And I'm like,
great. Oh, great.
Great. Perfect.
Yes. So when Jesus says that he's going up to Jerusalem where he's going to be beaten and killed, that's the Injil. Yeah. Okay, that's good. I'm fine with that. We can run the Islamic dilemma just with the red letters.
To Dean's credit, he did acknowledge some parts of that do contradict the Quran. He says it's minimal though, which no, I don't think so. I would love to have that kind of to go through that kind of stuff and see what it says. But yeah, it'd have to be maybe if he's counting verses or something like this, and just because lots of times Jesus isn't speaking about something that would be contradicting Islam. But if you're looking at like the big picture of what he's claiming to be the divine Son of God who's about to die on the cross and rise from the dead, and so the clear core message would be contradicting Islam. But just notice, I mean, once again, it's hey, you Christians, if you're going to show what Jesus said or what the gospel is, you have to just narrow it down, and here's the only place you can go to.
Okay, well, how are we going to figure out what Allah is saying in the Quran? Oh, well, anything any scholar has ever said is fair game on what Allah is saying. it's like, and they don't get it. They don't get it. You could put it right in front of their faces. They can't. They're somehow trained to not see their own hypocrisy.
Yeah, and as Kiro's philosophy says, they cannot refute the dilemma, so they invent a weak version of it, then try to refute their own straw man. Yeah, that's pretty much what we saw in the video. All right, let's get back to Dean, then I'll get to more super chats. Please keep bringing them in. They do help fund the channel. I also have I added a donation link below for anyone who wants to donate and keep supporting us. But let's get back to Dean here.
Do you have the one about the alternative interpretations of that? Because that just destroys them. Yeah,
right here. Yep.
Okay, so look, two notable alternative interpretations. Mujahid, and you can find this in Qurtubi, you can find this in Ibn Kathir, the unabridged version. But look what this says, Muslims. Mujahid said that Muhaymin refers to Muhammad and his relationship with the Quran. No, not the Quran's relationship to the Bible. Think about what Deen Responds got. You don't understand like how much, if Islam is true, Deen Responds is in more trouble than we are, guys. Deen Responds is in more trouble than we are. So think about this. Think about the shirk right here. So guys, the claim is that the Quran is the Muhaymin over the previous scriptures, right? That's the claim. And that is, I think that's what Surah 5 verse 48 is actually saying. Someone like Deen Responds says the word Muhaymin there, even though it means guardian, maintainer, protector, those kinds of things, which are all affirming the scriptures, it actually means the thing that goes and corrects all the errors in it. That's what being a guardian means. A guardian means that you correct all the mistakes and errors, and you're the supreme authority. So you've seen the translation supreme authority, right? Not one of the traditional interpretations.
Yeah.
It means that Muhaymin means supreme authority that corrects all the errors in whatever it's guarding. Okay.
The first point being that it referring to the Prophet ﷺ, okay, let's say we granted it. Let's say it wasn't grammatically incorrect, because it's actually grammatically incorrect to hold to this view that Mujahid narrated. Even if we grant it for the sake of the interpretation and reconciling it, the point is that you can guard something in different ways. The Prophet can guard the Quran through recitation and ensuring that people are reciting it properly in regards to the Quran. And then, there's going to be another interpretation.
Whoa, hang on. No. You can't. Did you hear what he just did?
Yeah,
he just went with guardian.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, but you could be a guardian. You could be a guard. We're not arguing about guardian. We're talking about decisive authority. If you want to go with the meaning of Muhaymin as decisive authority who decides what's true and what's false and whatever he's the decisive authority over, and you have people like Mujahid who say this is actually about Muhammad and the Quran, then that would mean that Muhammad is the decisive authority and the decider of what's true and false in the Quran, which would make Muhammad a higher authority than the speech of Allah. So guess what, guys? That you would be living in Shirk Central if you're going with that. That's the point. You're committing shirk if you go with that translation. And then when I point that out, he says, oh, but you could believe that Muhammad is someone could be a Muhammad, someone could be a guardian in various ways. We're not talking about guardian, right? It's talking about decisive authority. It's to point out the absurdity of your translation that you guys are making up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now when we point out the absurdity, you go with the normal translation.
Yeah.
But that's the point. You guys, when you guys bring up what the Quran says in 548, you don't give one of the translations to say, and the Quran is the guardian, because that sounds like you're reading that in context. That defends our view. That is one of our favorite verses to go to, 548, right?
Yeah.
When you read it in context, 543, Jews judged by the Torah, 547, Christians judged by the gospel. And especially in the case of 543, it's a response to Jews who are trying to avoid what the Torah says. And the Quran says, no, you go right back to the Torah. And so by the time you get to 548, if you're saying, what does it mean for the Quran to be a guardian over the previous scriptures? You can make up anything you want. You can go to different commentaries, but the meaning that fits the context is that when people, Jews or Christians, try to deviate from what their scriptures say or to avoid judging by their scriptures, the Quran says, you're not getting away from this. You're not getting away from this. You're going right back to your scriptures. So you don't want to, guys, I don't want to say that because our scriptures have been corrupted. And so you just have to translate it some other way. And so you don't translate it as guardian. You say it's the decisive authority over that decides the truth and the falsity of what came. Okay. And then we just point out, if that's what you think that means, there are other Muslims who interpret the Muhaymin here as Muhammad, and that would make Muhammad the decisive authority over the Quran and a higher authority than Allah. do you really want to go with that translation here? And then when we point that out, you go, oh, but guardian, well, that's not what we're talking about. That's not the translation you guys go with.
But how come it's when it's they are responding, it's so soft, like, well, guardian can be reciting it and preserving it. Well, why can't you grant us that then? Because it says Muhaymin over the books. So why can't it mean that, it means he's just guarding the previous books, meaning from corruption, by reciting them? Why is it when it comes to our Bible, it's guardian means supreme authority and corrector? But when it comes to the Muhammad, but even if we grant you that, it just means reciting. Like, why is it like that?
Yeah, they equivocate on the meanings.
Why can't it just be what it is? Like, our point isn't even that Mujahid is correct about Muhammad being, the verse is saying that Muhammad is the
Muhaymin over the Quran,
the guardian of the Quran. I don't care who's doing the guarding. My point is, the scholars' views were about guarding, not about who's supreme authority, because the scholars didn't call each other kafir over it by saying, well, if you call him supreme authority, Muhammad, meaning Muhammad, then you're a kafir. No, they were just disagreeing on who's guarding.
Yeah.
So which means the meaning is to guard, not to be supreme authority. That's the point.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, you need to understand what make sure you get what DOC just pointed out, because that's something we need to point out. When we're talking about Muhaymin and so on, and bringing up Mujahid and like Muslim commentators who thought this is about Muhammad, we're not saying that is the correct interpretation or anything else. We're saying that however you want to interpret the meaning of the word Muhaymin, it has to fit with the understanding of earlier Muslims, in terms of, if you're interpreting it in a way that would have made all these guys worshiping Muhammad and as a higher authority than Allah, you've got a problem with your translation. And so what we're saying is, if these are what Muslim people who are much closer to the events and much more knowledgeable and much better in Arabic than the Dawah guys, if they're interpreting this in various ways, you need to make sure that your interpretation is lining up with that you aren't going wildly away from their interpretation, right? In other words, these guys were in a much better position to know what the word Muhaymin meant than some 21st century Dawah guy who's just making things up left and right, right? They have a better idea of what it meant. And so if they believed that Muhaymin, whatever it means, can mean that Muhammad is a Muhaymin over the Quran, then you can't possibly say that it means the decisive authority who decides what's true and false. You can't give it that meaning. You can't say the word means that. And therefore, don't tell us that's what the word means. And so, yeah, all of this is just to show we're ruling out their modern definition by going to earlier guys and saying, if you guys are correct, they were all swimming in shirk. They didn't believe they're swimming in shirk. They're not executing each other and stuff. Oh, you said that Muhammad is Muhammad. How dare you? That would make him the decisive authority over the Quran. Will kill you, you kafir. Right? They're not doing that. Why is that? It means they didn't understand it to mean decisive criterion over who decides what's true and false. They didn't understand it like that, which means you're making it up now because it didn't exist back then.
Yeah. Let's continue on.
Exactly right.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Muhaymin of the Quran. Yeah, no problem. Like, these interpretations of guardianship can refer to different types of guardianship. The type of guardianship relationship that the Quran has with the Bible is a type that ensures that the true parts are clear and then the untrue parts are thrown away. Okay, this is from Baghawi's tafsir that I highlighted before that they ignored. Okay.
Oh yeah. Let's pause. Oh, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Big massive lie.
Yeah.
Baghawi never said anything of the sort.
Yeah. So what he just said was, he said, well, I don't know what I don't know if he like forgot to edit that part in, or if he's got an editor that didn't put that part in, but he didn't read anything that said that. But what he just said was that basically that Muhaymin means the true parts are clear, and then the true parts are thrown away.
The false part. The
untrue parts, sorry. He said the true parts are clear, and then the untrue parts are thrown away. That's what he just said.
Ouch! If that's Muhammad in the Quran.
Not what Baghawi said.
Yeah, but that's not what he said, and he also didn't show that on the screen. He said like, I showed that on the screen. We like conveniently ignored it or something. So
show it on the screen. What's his face? What's his name?
Deen.
Yeah, Deen. Show it on this. Why don't you show it on the screen?
Yeah, we'll show you guys what Al-Baghawi said for this verse. And I don't know. It's possible that Al-Baghawi mentioned like Muhaymin in another verse that it's not chapter 5 verse 48, and he talks about the definition that he just gave. Well, he's gonna have to prove it though. That's his. The burden's on him to prove it.
Yeah, we need you to prove it. But we actually looked at Baghawi, and he said he actually said that it basically means that it's a witness.
Yeah,
a witness over it.
Yeah,
and it basically means that from its I'll just read it. We have revealed to you, O Muhammad, the book, the Quran, in truth, confirming what is between its hands, meaning its presence of the book, meaning from the previously revealed books, and a Muhaymin over it. Al-Wahhabi narrated. Al-Wahhabi narrated from Ibn Abbas, meaning a witness over it. This is also the view of Mujahid, Qatada, Suddi, and Al-Kisai.
Yep. And this one's a really interesting one. So we can add this one to our list because we just had two notable interpretations. Well, he mentions another one here.
Hassan.
Hassan says that the book is Muhaymin to Muhammad.
Oh, so is that why?
So this is now a third notable interpretation.
And
so
we wouldn't have found it if it weren't for you,
Dean.
Dean.
So it's
Thanks,
this
Dean.
Sajid thing where Sajid quoted like a modern scholar. Not that Baghawi is a modern scholar, but it's kind of like the Sajid thing where on David's channel we were reviewing one of his videos and he quoted a modern scholar. So we decided to look up this modern scholar for other verses, and actually we used that material against the Muslims in favor of the Islamic dilemma. Well, same thing here. Thanks to Dean here, we went to Tafsir al-Baghawi because we were going to other commentaries. We didn't necessarily consult al-Baghawi for our studies in the Islamic Dilemma project, but because we went to this one, now we have another interpretation here where it says that the Quran is the Muhaymin to Muhammad
over the Prophet. So does that mean that the Quran takes the good parts out of Muhammad and leave the bad parts out?
I hope so.
It doesn't do that.
I think the Quran messed up and took all the good parts out of Muhammad and just left the bad parts.
So Al-Baghawi continues on. He says that a Muhaymin, in this context, if it's used of the Quran to Muhammad, that it means a witness and confirmer. So the Quran is witnessing to Muhammad and confirming Muhammad, if that's what it means in that context.
So notice when it's about Muhammad, it's all about witness and confirmer. But when it comes to our books, he wants it to mean the opposite.
Yeah, that's what the modern Dawah guys want it to mean. So we have he just goes over some others. Like he said, this is a lot of this. He said this at the beginning of the video. There's a lot of stuff repeated. That the word Muhaymin, I mean, like according to Ikramah, says a guide or an indicator. Other scholars say that it means a trustee over it. Again, it means trustworthy, etc., etc. And then you have another theory here that says that the word al-Muhaymin was originally al-Mu'aymin, and that if that's the case, then it comes from this word amin, which means trustworthy. And then he goes into some sort of linguistic examples for why scholars might say that. And then this part goes on, and we all know about Ibn Jurayj. You guys remember this guy? Ibn Jurayj.
Yeah.
We don't have to go over that story, but so basically that we all know what he says. It says he said that whatever the people of the book inform about their book, if it is found in the Quran, then affirm it, otherwise reject it. So in other words, it's what people say. It's not what the book says, it's what people say. Like they might misinterpret it or they might interpret it correctly. He's saying, basically just don't, if what they say agrees with the Quran, then affirm it. If they don't, if what they say disagrees with the Quran, don't affirm it. He's not saying that if they show you what the Bible says, you have to reject it. He's saying if what they say, because obviously you're talking to these people who are mainly illiterate.
And notice that Al-Baghawi actually he quotes Ibn Jurayj correctly.
Yeah, unlike Ibn Kathir. Yeah,
he says if the people of the book.
Yeah,
if the people of the book inform you about something, so basically says don't trust the people of the book rather than don't trust the book.
Exactly. Then you have other scholars here saying that it means a judge, and what it means by judge here, it means in the context of like rulings, like for example, stoning the adulterer, like that's what they usually bring up, even though the Quran doesn't actually have that anymore. According to that was a verse that was abrogated. The verse was abrogated, a goat ate it. But that's what the scholars usually mean when they say it means a judge. It means when it comes to rulings, like you follow the Quran's rulings. Al-Khalil said that it means a guardian and a preserver. And then this is what Al-Baghawi says here. He says that the meanings are similar, and the overall meaning is every book that Allah testifies to as true is a book of Allah, and whatever it does not is not. So that's not what Deen said. Deen says that whatever is true, it affirms. And then he said whatever is untrue or whatever is not true, the Quran, throws it out. That's not what Al-Baghawi says, at least in his commentary on 548.
Yeah, so I think that's what he meant, that line. But if he read it, he probably misread it because he doesn't know Arabic. But all it's saying is every book the Quran testifies to, meaning the Torah and the Gospel, is true. كل كتاب يشهد بصدقه القرآن فهو كتاب الله. Any book that Quran testifies to as true is the book of Allah. وما لا فلا, which means, and whatever it does not is not. That means it doesn't testify to the Hindu book,
right,
or any other book. It testifies to the books that it mentions. That's not what he said.
That's not what he said.
He's either ignorant or deceptive.
Yeah, and I'm thinking because he obviously can't read the Arabic, that someone is feeding this information to him and he's just kind of repeating it, because obviously he's not going to these sources himself. These are not, as far as I know, these aren't translated.
Yeah.
But whoever's telling him this, they're giving him bad information.
So
this stream just got a little more Islamophobic because now AP is here.
And racist too.
Turks are racist.
Hey, what's up, AP?
Oh, hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Thank you. Got this recap here for AP.
AP, the most humble.
The most humble, yeah. We got this recap here. So basically, Muhaymin in chapter 5, verse 48, the mainstream interpretation is that the Quran is Muhaymin over the previous books. And then you have another view that says that the Quran is Muhaymin over Muhammad. And then you have another view that says Allah is Muhaymin, a little bit of a variant there, an A instead of an I, over the Quran. And then Muhammad is Muhaymin over the Quran. So you have so far we have 4 different views of
and
this.
It's all Allah in the Quran.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get why these guys don't agree. The Quran said it's very clear. This is very Islamophobic of these scholars to keep disagreeing and getting these things wrong.
Yeah. So just notice, guys, everyone notice the big picture. You go with you look at the commentaries and what Muhaymin is. It's something good. It's always something good. And then you have all these different interpretations over the centuries of what is the Muhaymin in there, because it's just apparently Muslims over the centuries. No, well, it says Muhaymin, but it's after Allah mentions Muhammad and the Quran and the previous scriptures, and therefore, what is this saying is the Muhaymin here, and what is the Muhammad over? And they come up with all these different interpretations. So, but look at what the Muslims do. They go with one of those and say, oh, this is referring to the Quran being the Muhaymin over the previous scriptures. And then we say, okay, well, good, because you look at the translations, protector, confirm, whatever, just pick a meaning. They're all saying something good about the previous scriptures. No, we're going to say it means decisive authority over which decides what's true and false and gets rid of the false. And we point out, well, that can't possibly be what it means, because look at how these earlier guys used it and even thought that it refers to Muhammad. There's no way out of this, guys. And so what do? They pick the meaning that they want. They pick the commentary that they want, and then they distort even that. This is, my goodness, what a disaster.
It's crazy, man.
Hey, man, stay away from Muhaymin.
Sounds like something you would get if you're choking. Quick, give him the Muhaymin maneuver. Steelman of the best answer to the Islamic dilemma you've heard. I actually think I have heard an okay one, but it came from a guy that AP and David Wood don't like, Javed Hashmi. He just said, no, Islam is meant to be an inclusive religion. It's meant to say that Christians and Jews are saved. And he was on my channel like a year ago, and he was sort of talking about this stuff. And that's what I think is the best answer. They just sort of bite the bullet and go, okay, yeah, Christians are saved according to Islam.
But no, IP, that is what I would regard. Matter of fact, I would regard the strongest response to the Islamic dilemma as exactly what 548 says, right? And if you go to the script, the verses that came right before it, it's Allah sends the Torah and Jews have to judge by the Torah. Then it's Allah sends the Injil and Christians have to judge by the Injil, but the Injil also confirms the Torah. And then the Quran comes and Muslims are supposed to judge by the Quran, but the Quran confirms the Torah and the gospel. They're all confirming each other, but Allah made them different with different claims and different rulings and so on. so that different communities would have different beliefs and they would be separate communities and they would all compete with each other to see who's going to do the best works. And so Allah knows there's the differences. He knows that what the gospel says is different from what the Quran says. He's inclusive, and he's okay with having all these differences. He's okay with having all these different teachings, because it's going to keep us different communities. And the Quran, what the Quran is saying at the end of the day is, yes, Jews judge by your scriptures, Christians judge by your scriptures, we Muslims have our scriptures. Then Allah loves us to have these differences in our beliefs and so on, because it keeps us different communities. I think that is an interpretation that's the closest you can come to something that actually fits what the Quran says. I don't think it's right, but
I don't think it solves the Islamic dilemma for a different reason, but I'll get to that later at some point. Controversial, but have you ever wondered if Christians and Hindus worship the same God? I know AP wasn't wondering that until last night. And then I was like, what? Okay.
I've never wondered that.
I've never either. Nope.
Did you see the debate, IP?
I watched I watched for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. When he said that Islam is not some sort of like satanic deception, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you there. Nope, that's the deal breaker. And then he also said Marduk could be, if everyone's worshiping Marduk early on, he said like they could be worshiping the same God. I'm like, Marduk was a created being. He was the son of Enlil in Babylonian myth. So he's the son of Enlil, who's the son of An, the sky god. I mean, like, you cannot say Marduk is the same god.
And then I also brought an example. I said, let's say there is a new god that comes into that kind of starts being worshipped today somewhere in the Mediterranean, and his name is Mamumu, and this god demands that all people gather all kinds of women and sacrifice the women to him. Would you still say, but they also say that he is the one creator and sustainer of the universe? Would you say that they worship the same God as we do? He said, well, probably.
Yeah, I know. I was.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, guys.
I was. No, man.
Yeah, everyone. No. The issue in short for anyone who hasn't been following this is it's you have in Vatican II the claim that Christians and Muslims are worshiping and adoring the same God. And so we'd sit here and say, it's pretty natural just to say, wait a minute, Allah's not a Trinity. Allah's a father to no one. They deny the Father. They deny the Son. They deny they radically change Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So Allah's not a father. Jesus is not the Son. And the Spirit is the angel Gabriel, according to Muslims and so on. So we just think, how is that the same God? What are you even talking about? And then it comes out, but you can disagree with things. People can disagree and still be talking about the same thing. And they give the Superman example. Lois Lane, if she just knows Clark Kent, could think, oh, he's not super strong, and she'd be wrong, but she's still talking about the same guy. And so they've got that response. But then they have to defend what it means for Christians and Muslims to be worshiping the same God. And they use an argument from reference. That the Quran is using this term in a discussion with Christians and with Jews and Christians, and therefore we're clearly talking about the same thing. Otherwise, how are we even like communicating and using this language and so on? And so Trent claimed in his debate that they got the meaning. Muslims got the meaning of their term like God from Jews and Christians. And so people would point out in response, wait a minute, Allah was part of a pagan pantheon. And so if they just come up and say, hey, this God from our pagan pantheon is the God of the Bible, you wait a minute, you got a problem, because there's a pagan God that you're now just saying is the God of the Bible. And you read about Allah, he sounds like a pagan God very, very frequently. And so they kind of, yes, it's still, if you're saying that's the God of the Bible, then you're clearly talking about the same God and so on. But notice the implication. You could do what AP just pointed out and say, hey, what if there's some other God, Mamumu or something like that? And you say, hey, we're worshiping him as the one God. Would you be talking about the same God? But think like this little goat. Imagine someone worships this little goat and then comes along and says, hey, this is the God of the Bible. Following Trent's reasoning, you'd have to say, yes, if I am bowing down to this little goat here, and I say that this is the God of the Bible, and I'm worshiping this, then you are worshiping Christians, and the person who is worshiping this goat are worshiping the exact same God, and that is just disturbing stuff.
I need a goat statue. I need a screaming goat statue.
Not only is it
Derek. Derek's got it.
Not only is it false and dangerous, but the arguments are contradictory, as AP pointed out, that they actually contradicted each other in their arguments. And he was like, well, inconsistency between people is not inconsistency. And even that's your debate partner, though. You should have some consistency in your arguments.
Yeah.
But anyway, the arguments are really bad. So if you think about like the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Corinth and 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he says, if someone proclaims to you another Jesus whom we did not proclaim, right? And then goes on, or another spirit, which the spirit you did not receive, or a different gospel, which you did not accept, etc., etc. From what I understood from the arguments are that if you're disagreeing about something, then you are talking about the same thing. So that's not what Paul's saying here. He's saying that there's another Jesus. So he's disagreeing, saying that's not Jesus, but but according to, yeah, there you go. You got it. You're on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
But according to this argumentation, well, they can't really be disagreeing then. They can't really be disagreeing because they're not talking about the same Jesus. So, and then, yeah, it's just like I said, it's dangerous and it's false and it doesn't make sense with the Bible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all really derailed once he said that that even Hindus worship the same God, and I asked him about Zoroastrians, and he said also Zoroastrians also worship the same God, and he said possibly even atheists worship the same. Okay, all right, okay.
Everyone,
okay.
yep, it's
okay.
Yeah, I was done at that point.
One world religion. Trent Dohertyism.
Scarlet Phoenix says, isn't contradictory Islamic scholarship a double standard because of different interpretation of scripture like Orthodox Catholic Protestants have? Yeah, that's what we pointed out earlier. It's like, yeah, there's so much contradictory Islamic scholarship. They just can't pretend that's part of Islam. And when we're doing an internal critique, we have to include all that. That's absurd.
Wait. Is this a criticism? Is this a criticism of us? Isn't contradictory Islamic scholarship a double standard because of different interpretation of scripture Orthodox Catholics and Protestants have? In other words, is he saying, hey, how are you pointing out that their interpretations differ when you guys have different interpretations?
If he is, and I mean, that's not what we were claiming. So I don't even know why he'd bring it up, but I don't think that's what he's claiming. Yeah.
Scarlet Phoenix, if that is what you're claiming, go ahead and claim it so we can destroy it.
Yeah. Come back with another super chat and we'll destroy it. Should Muslims accept Ibn Ishaq or not? Well, as far as I'm aware, they accept the Sirah of Ibn Ishaq. That seems to be pretty authoritative to them as far as
Ibn Ishaq is their earliest like detailed biographical source on Muhammad. Yeah. But you have this issue early on. You had Sirah guys, and they had a methodology. But later on, you had the Hadith guys, and they sort of consolidate power around themselves. And so you will have Muslims who apply the standards of later Hadith scholars to like Ibn Ishaq and say he has to have an isnad that looks like this, or we just have to throw this stuff out. But it's kind of a problem in that for Muslims who reject material in Ibn Ishaq, it's like you don't realize how weird Islam is, in that the further you get away from Muhammad, the more information you have about him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's weird. It's supposed to be the reverse. The earlier you go, the more information you have from people, because those are the people who knew it. And later people aren't going to magically know more, but that's what you have in Islam. The later you go, the more people know about Muhammad. Why? Because they're actually making stuff up left and right. But the idea is, if you want to throw out massive chunks of Ibn Ishaq and say it's unreliable and stuff, because Ibn Ishaq, you've got like the satanic verses and stuff. Muslims pretty commonly just reject that kind of thing. These embarrassing stories. But if your earliest source is already messed up and filled with lies, how are we going to later sources and saying these are reliable? It's like if you had generations of liars in between Muhammad and the later guys, that you're on pretty messed up, dangerous ground there.
Yeah. Any videos?
This is why some people also refer to him as Ibn Ishaq. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, on the biography of Muhammad, actually, the guy that Deen is named after, Farid, responds. He's named after him because supposedly he converted to Islam through Farid. He actually recommended that was like one of his top 4 books for biographies that people should read about Muhammad. So if it's not reliable, then you shouldn't have one of your Dawah guys out there saying, hey, everybody should read this book about Muhammad.
Yeah. I love it because it's so useful for what we do. I don't think they realize that half the time, though. But Any videos to refute scientific miracles? Yeah, I uploaded one like 2 months ago showing how their methodology doesn't work. If David would have wanted to do that 2 days ago, we would have did that on his channel.
Kind of a hot topic going on, but yes,
I did. Yeah, stupid topic.
And seriously, the one of the best videos refuting the argument from scientific miracles is Hamza Tzortzis, who used to be a defender until he just got embarrassed. He actually used the scientific miracles argument against an atheist scientist who just burned him up and humiliated him. But yeah, Hamza got crushed so bad that he had to completely reinterpret the argument, and he acknowledged that the argument doesn't work, and he said, you actually have to. Here's what you would need for a scientific miracle argument to work. One, you'd have to show that you are interpreting the Quran correctly. This is what the Quran is actually claiming. You're not inserting this scientific meaning into the text. So one, the Quran has to be saying something, it has to be clear in what it's saying. Two, the science has to be settled. You don't want to say, oh, this theory right now confirms the Quran when that theory might change. So the science needs to be settled. And three, it has to be something that other people wouldn't have known at the time. And the point is, there's nothing in the scientific miracles that meets those criteria. There's nothing where the Quran is clearly saying something scientific and the science is settled and it agrees with the Quran and it's something that people didn't know at the time. There's nothing like that. And so it fails. So anyway, it's actually pretty good stuff.
I also highly recommend that debate. It was Hamza Tzortzis and Adnan Rashid. They tried to ambush PZ Myers at some atheist convention or something.
That's what I was talking about. about.
Yeah, I highly recommend people to look that up. I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Giant DOC, you guys are amazing. Saw God Logic clips of 2 ex-Muslimas that came to Christ back to back, and you guys were central. I cried in tears. So great work. And that's why we're promoting their stuff. They put out a lot of really, really good stuff that we need to keep promoting. So absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Richard, for the super chat. Really important question, guys. When will Ezra return? This is a question I've been wondering for a while. If we look at the timetables in the Torah, not the Torah we have, the Torah Moses had that the Quran talks about, there is an interesting timetable. When do you guys think Ezra is going to return for the Jews? You know, the son of Allah.
You'll have to ask the Jews. They're the ones who worship him as the son of Allah.
Good point. Yeah.
That's a good point, yes. No, you wrong. How dare you disrespect the Quran? The men of Al-Zut shall write you.
See what happens when AP shows up? As soon as AP shows up, all the weirdos come out.
Yeah. Terrible. D-Wood read this in Ali Dawah's voice. The scientific miracle argument is debunked.
Telling me to read that.
With scientific blunder argument,
That's pretty decent, IP.
We're working on it.
The scientific miracle argument is debunked. We got to go now with the scientific blunder argument,
Well, remember, you switched to the intolerance argument after that.
Oh, yeah. Islam is so intolerant, therefore it's true.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to use that. He said that's going to be the new argument, that people are going to come to Islam because they're so intolerant.
Yeah, but then people should be Nazis if they're going to be that intolerant.
Exactly.
That's a standard.
How would you make the case that the Buddha isn't a reliable source of revelation like Muhammad? Sorry if that's a big question. How would you make the case that Buddha isn't a reliable source of revelation like Muhammad? Well, then neither of them are. I don't know what you're getting at here. I'm not sure. It's a very simple question. They're not. And a lot of the information we have about the Buddha comes from sources that actually post-date Christ. Like the biography of Buddha is like 2nd century AD. So a lot of the sources are late. They can be kind of contradictory. Like there's even a really later source that talks about him like coming back up and speaking words after he died and then dying, going back and dying again. And, you know, Jesus mythicists use that to say he resurrected. Check out a video I did called Jesus versus Buddha for some information on that. But I would say there's no revelations there. Christian Gadfly says, Dean's got a good brain, but seems blind to the glaring weakness in his own side. Too lost in ego, too. Truth needs humility to be found. Well said. All right, let's get back into...
I disagree with the good brain part, but the rest is okay.
DOC is calling Dean out here. So let's get back to Dean on that note here.
Hasana's view, like we showed as well, according to the same person that they're appealing to. Because look who he says has this view, or who documents this view from Mujahid. It's from At-Tabari, right? So the first one is from At-Tabari. Now, Mujahid said that Muhaymin refers to Muhammad ﷺ and his relationship with the Quran, not the relationship of the Quran with the Bible. Okay. Tabari says this view is grammatically incorrect and totally wrong. And I cooked a Sam Shamoon fan on this point because the likes of Sam Shamoon and Jay and Dog and David Wood, they quote mine. They always quote mine.
We quote mine. Oh, but by the way, I don't know where he's going with this, but note he has completely missed the point, right?
Yeah,
You can say it's wrong. You can say the view is completely incorrect. That is not the point. The point is that Muslim commentators are obviously not interpreting Muhaymin the way you guys are interpreting it. Otherwise, Tabari just would have said, Mujahid's a mushrik. You don't believe him.
Exactly.
Don't believe him anymore. They don't say that. You say, it doesn't make sense grammatically for him to hold this view and so on. None of that's the point. None of that's the point. It's that none of these guys are saying, hey, Muhammad means decisive authority. And so if you say this is Muhammad, oh my goodness, now you're worshiping Muhammad and he's a higher authority than Allah. They're not interpreting it like that. That's the point. This entire thing, as DOC pointed out, all of this is just to rule out certain explanations of the word Muhaymin that you guys keep using and that contradict the guys that came before you.
It's like we're talking to kids.
Yeah.
It's like you walk in on a couple of doctors and they're disagreeing on what is the more appropriate medicine to give the patient. And then you conclude that the doctor who's lost that argument doesn't know anything and it shouldn't be a doctor and would have killed the patient. No, he's just saying this is the more appropriate view.
Yeah, he wasn't excommunicating him. Yeah. He wasn't calling him a mushrik or anything like that.
Our point was Muhaymin does not mean a supreme authority that decides right and wrong, because then that wouldn't have allowed Mujahid to have a view that it's about Muhammad.
Yeah, right.
Because that would make Muhammad decider of right and wrong over the Quran. Now, the fact that Tabari rejects him, when he does reject him, and we'll see how he does it.
Well, Deen doesn't understand how or why.
It's because he says, it's an issue with the pronouns.
Oh, yeah.
Which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
He says, Muhammad couldn't have been the guardian because, the pronouns don't match. He doesn't say because the Muhaymin itself means something different, like what the Muslims want. That's our point. But it's like we're talking to little kids. Like, I don't know whether to pity them or tell them off, or it's like the nuance is a level, like, even though it's not that hard.
Well, this has got to be
above.
Well, DOC, this has got to be frustrating because you speak Arabic and you're being told you're wrong.
And we read it and we thought we ate because, this is going to show them this is obvious, this is clear. And we said it 10 times. It shows that when the scholars were discussing, that Muhaymin can never mean what Muslims say, that, it means corrector of other books. Because some of them said it's about Muhammad. And then because the Tabari rejects that view for different reasons, subtle, nuanced reasons.
That Deen doesn't understand.
That Deen doesn't understand. He thinks, he's rejecting the whole thing, meaning that Muslims are right. No, it doesn't mean you're right. Muhaymin does not mean supreme authority.
Right.
It doesn't. Otherwise, Tabari would have said, I reject it for that reason.
Exactly.
I don't like to shout, but they are so, I'm sorry to say, the IQ is terrible.
It's insane. Every time these guys respond to something, one, they misrepresent what we said, and then they give a response that doesn't answer what we actually said. And then all the Muslims cheer, oh yes, you humiliated them. And it's like, what? It's like, this is like some seriously mentally dysfunctional stuff here. But yeah, and then that's what's crazy. He just said, look, they like to quote mine. If you say here's what a word means and your earlier scholars say there's no way it can mean that, and they obviously rule out your meaning, that's not us quote mining. That's us pointing out that if you want to go with this, you just threw a lot of your guys under the bus and turn them into kafirs.
Yeah.
That's bad. In other words, that's bad. Deen Responds. It's bad to say Mujahid the kafir who worshipped Muhammad. It's bad to say that from your own religion's perspective. So you should be more careful, and you're not.
Yeah, and this breaks down on a number of levels. Like, the logic doesn't follow, because his logic is, okay, Al-Tabari records the view, so that means you should also accept Al-Tabari when he rejects the view. That doesn't follow, but David's position that he was arguing in the video, like the one that Deen's responding to here, wasn't even that Mujahid was correct, and that's because David, you don't. That's not your interpretation of the verse. You don't think that Muhammad is.
No,
You made that really clear.
I think it's saying that the Quran is the Muhaymin over the previous scriptures.
And that's what you said in this very video that he's responding to, and he's making it sound like well, anyway, we'll get to it, but yeah,
it's not that we're picking Mujahid and throwing everybody else out. We just showed you a sample of scholars that say that it could be Muhammad because none of them thought it meant supreme authority. That's the point.
It's problematic.
Inshallah. So watch this. This is Tafsir al-Tabari. I'll read the first part because this is just a clip
By the way,
of the second part.
Yeah.
You'll notice as he's reading this that he has no idea what this is saying. He has no idea what on earth this is saying. And you'll notice as he's reading it that he's completely clueless. The only thing that he knows is that Al-Tabari rejects it for grammatical reasons. But when he tries to explain the reasons, even though the text is right in front of his face, he has no idea what it is. But you guys will see that yourselves.
But don't worry, Dean. Well, we've translated and we'll explain it to you.
No, we simplified it so that hopefully he'll get it.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, guys, that Dawah guys have to come to Christians to learn the meaning of their own passages?
Excellent.
Is Abu Ja'far. Abu Ja'far is At-Tabari. Abu Ja'far said the interpretation of the statement according to Mujahid's understanding is we sent down the book to you, confirming the books before it and as a guardian over it. Thus the phrase confirming is etc. The main point being the guardian is seen as a circumstantial qualifier, which is a reference to the Prophet ﷺ, and the pronoun of the book is the Quran.
What?
Yeah. So when we read At-Tabari, first of all, you can read the English in front of you guys, and you can see that that's not what At-Tabari just said. But so that just shows you that he has no idea why it's grammatically incorrect according to At-Tabari.
And he said, and he just sped through it because he didn't even bother reading it before he presented it.
Yeah. So we just presented a simplified version of it, just so everyone can understand why it's grammatically incorrect according to At-Tabari and what he's not saying. So this is not a translation, it's just a summary because the translation would include some technical terms that, obviously is going to be over Dean's head. So the verse in Mujahid's reading says, "We have revealed the book," meaning the Quran, "in truth to you, Muhammad, confirming what is between his hands or its hands," if it's referring to the Quran, and that means in its presence, "from the book, the Bible, and is guarded over." Okay, that's Mujahid's reading. He reads it in like a passive sense where it's
it's
this
Muhaymin.
So Al-Tabari says that Mujahid's interpretation is that the Quran confirms the previous books, Muhammad is the guardian, and Muhammad guarded over the Quran. Now why does he reject that? Because the verse says, based on the grammar, he says the verse says, "We revealed to you," meaning to you, Muhammad, and then it says confirming what is between his hands. So it should say, "We revealed it to you, confirming what is between your hands." According to At-Tabari, that's what the grammar should say if it's referring to Muhammad. But then he goes further and he says, you notice how that Mujahid takes the Quran confirms the previous books, and he says Muhammad is the guardian. Well, he's saying that the same subject doing the confirming is also doing the guarding. So he's basically saying that whatever is doing the guarding is also doing the confirming. So based on these grammatical reasons, he's saying it can't be Muhammad, right?
Yeah, it has to be the Quran.
And it has to be the Quran, according to At-Tabari. Now, this is what he didn't say. He never said that Mujahid's view is blasphemous, or he's suggesting, hey, why would you say Muhammad's the corrector or someone who filters the Quran? Why would you say that? Why would you say that, Mujahid? Why would you say that Muhammad is a corrector over the Quran? How could you say that as a Muslim, right? You are the student of Ibn Abbas. You're the student of Ali. How could you say that? That's not what he said. He just disagreed with him based on grammatical reasons. But guess what, guys? The idea that Muhammad is Muhaymin over the Quran is actually affirmed by Muslim scholars.
Yep.
Ibn Kathir notes that, but he does agree with At-Tabari that that's not what this verse is teaching. So you guys have probably dealt with this a lot. Like maybe someone will ask you a question based on a verse and say, hey, this verse is teaching, XYZ, and XYZ is true, but let's say that the verse is not teaching that. So you might correct them and say, what you're saying is true, but here's a verse that you want to go to because the one you just went to is not actually saying what you think it says. So what you're saying is true, but that's not what the verse is saying. And here's what Ibn Kathir says.
Yep. So Ibn Kathir here says, first of all, he lists all the people,
just Mujahid,
that agree. All the people. Ikrimah, Sa'id ibn Jubair, Ata al-Khurasani and Ibn Abi Najih from Mujahid, all of them said that it's about Muhammad.
So notice, it's not just Mujahid's view, according to Ibn Kathir, it's all of these guys.
That Muhammad is the Muhaymin, or the trustee over the Quran. He
says,
says this is correct in meaning. هذا فإنه صحيح في المعنى. Do you see that?
صحيح.
Do you see the word صحيح? You should know. You should know the word صحيح. Whatever his name. Deen. You should know the word صحيح, right? He says فإنه صحيح في المعنى means the meaning is correct. That means, guess what? Muhammad really is the Muhaymin over the Quran. It's just not what this verse is saying.
Exactly, because he goes on to say, but using this as an explanation of this verse requires interpretation. And then he goes on to quote basically what At-Tabari says and why At-Tabari rejected it for the grammatical reasons that we listed. So I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, but there's some more to add to this. But what do you guys think so far?
No, that's pretty important that it's not just Mujahid. There's other that were arguing this, but again, the main point was that there's no way Muhaymin can mean like criterion or supreme authority, because these guys would have been committing blasphemy and saying that Muhammad's the Muhaymin over the Quran. It makes more sense that they understood it in the sense of guardian, which again, this is not just one guy. You found other guys too. So yeah, this all makes total sense.
Yeah, and the fact that it's correct in meaning.
Like the Muslim scholars who don't take that interpretation are saying it's correct in meaning.
That means if you affirm that Muhammad is the Muhaymin over the Quran, even today, you're fine.
Yeah.
Theologically. It's just not what this verse is saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's correct in meaning. It's just not what the verse is saying because the pronouns don't match.
Yeah. That's an important point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's correct theologically. It's just not what the verse is saying.
Yeah, so all these took the verse to mean that Muhammad is the Muhaymin, that he's the guardian over the Quran, or it was guarded over by Muhammad. And then other Muslim scholars are saying, hey, well, that's correct, that he actually is the Muhaymin over the Quran, but that's just not what the verse is saying. So I don't know what he's trying to prove by this, but he has no idea what exactly is going on. But I have a question. I have a question for David. I'll pick. David, he just left. Never mind. Bad time.
Yeah, I think he had to take care of something.
Oh, okay.
He'll be back,
It was a bad time to pick David. All right. I'll ask AP.
Where did David go? We all wonder, but we all know what is really going on.
Hiding, boy. You're hiding, and you know you can't come out and show your face.
Yeah. Exactly. So AP, I got a question for you. So Deen. Clearly he doesn't know Arabic or Arabic grammar, but he's appealing to At-Tabari as a source for what is authoritative in Arabic grammar. And so my question is that a good place for Muslims to go? Like let's say, okay, I don't understand something, but I'm going to appeal to this guy who is an authority for me in Arabic grammar. I have some problems with that. Like if you're going to accept At-Tabari, which by the way, I'm not saying he's wrong grammatically. I'm not saying that he's wrong grammatically, but I'm saying if you yourself don't know the grammar and you're appealing to him as an authority, wouldn't you be in a difficult position if this same scholar says that there are verses in the Quran that you accept as divine and inspired by Allah, like Deen accepts them as inspired and divine by Allah, that if At-Tabari says those verses are actually grammatically incorrect, don't you think that would put him in a bind?
Yeah, where are you going to go then?
It would be a very, very terrible strategy. So strategically speaking, it's a very, very bad thing to do. It might show that he is kind of ignorant about the big faults with Tabari. Some of the faults for which Muslim scholars themselves do not fully accept Tabari as a complete authority, because they have some big problems with some of the things that he says, because he's very honest in the beginnings about the Islamic position and the Islamic scriptures and all that. And so if you go with everything that he says, if you take him as an authority, both on what is and is not true, and on the language of the Quran, you will run into some very big problems. So this is a huge mistake.
Bad place for him to go. And we just have a couple of examples go ahead.
But AP and everyone, I want him to keep the authority of Tabari over the grammar.
Yeah,
because he's going to end up putting the Quran in the bin. Because guess what Tabari says about your Quran, my friend?
Yeah, a number of times. And this is a summary of what At-Tabari says. We just picked 3 examples, and then we gave a bonus. But if you take At-Tabari as an authority on Arabic grammar. Now, okay, I just want to be clear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that I disagree with At-Tabari on chapter 5, verse 48, and why it's grammatically problematic to say that that's Muhammad. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if you, Deen, don't know Arabic, you don't know Arabic grammar, and you're just relying on At-Tabari, and you're saying because At-Tabari says it, because obviously you don't even know what's going on. You said the book has a pronoun
Which
and that
it
refers to
didn't.
the Quran.
It didn't.
There's no pronoun on the book referring to the Quran. You don't even know what you're reading, even if it's in front of your face in English. So you can't even read English. I mean, and you want to go tell us about Arabic grammar. But
by the way, in the Arabic, it just said the book.
Yeah, there's no pronoun.
There's no pronoun to it. The pronoun was next to yadayhi, which was miles down the sentence, which is his hands, and ilayka, which means to you.
Yeah.
Miles down from it.
Exactly.
Just saying.
So, but Deen, if you want to appeal to At-Tabari because you don't know the Arabic grammar and you're saying, hey, I accept what At-Tabari says on Arabic grammar. Well, guess what? Because At-Tabari lived in a time when the readings of the Quran were not imposed on the people. And actually, a great interview for you guys to watch. AP had an interview with Shadi Nasser. I highly recommend that interview for anyone, Muslim and non-Muslim, to watch that, because you're going to see a number of things. This question actually came up, is if there are grammatical errors in the Quran. That's what one of the questions AP asked to Shadi Nasser. And you'll be surprised by his answer as someone who is an Arab and as someone who's a scholar of Islam, what he says. But At-Tabari, because he lived in a time when these readings were not enforced on the people, this was about a generation later. And so this might be a little bit over Deen's head, but there was a period in history. There was a period in history where there were certain readings of the Quran that were enforced on the Muslims, and they had political power, and they could pressure people into, you have to accept these 7 readings, and eventually you have to accept these 10 readings. And so, without getting too technical into that, the point is that all Muslims believe that the readings that they have today are divine and that they're inspired by Allah. But At-Tabari didn't have that view. He didn't have that view that all of these readings that Muslims accept today are divine and inspired by Allah. And so, just for an example, one of the readings, like the reading of Hamza in chapter 4, verse 1, he says that this is not eloquent in the speech of Arabs. Chapter 6, verse 23, Hafs, and the majority. The reason why I noted Hafs there is because that's the majority reading across the Muslim world. 95% of the Muslim world reads that. And then the majority of other readings also read like this in Hafs for chapter 6, verse 23. He says, according to the scholars of Arabic, this is irregular and not eloquent in speech. Chapter 6, verse 134, Ibn Umar says that, chapter 6, verse 137. Sorry about that. Chapter 6, verse 137, Ibn Umar says, in the speech of Arabs, that is considered ugly and not eloquent. Ugly and not eloquent.
So what you're reading now, Deen, is not eloquent. It's ugly, and it's not. It's irregular, highly irregular.
Yeah, this is very, very Islamic phobic about Tabari to say these kinds of things.
Very Islamic. So actually, if you're gonna go with Tabari for grammar, you throw away your Quran right now. I mean, forget the Islamic dilemma. You become a kafir at this point. Because your Quran is ugly, not eloquent, and irregular according to your own Tabari that you went by the grammar of. Right? If you're gonna do that.
So I see David. What happened?
He left.
Oh. I don't know. They keep getting kicked out. The AP got kicked out. David got kicked out. I don't know.
We're the only ones not kicked out.
We're the last survivors.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know why he keeps getting kicked out.
Okay, so we got the links here for you, and we even got the Arabic here for you.
Just in case anyone wants the screenshots of the Arabic, because we have the links, and this is what you're looking for in the links. So obviously, people who know Arabic, these are the sources here, but it's in case, just for reference sake, for people who want to note this.
So I'm gonna just read the Arabic for Deen just to teach him. In Surah 4, verse 1, your favorite lovely Tabari, who's your grammarian now, he says it's غير فصيح. That means not eloquent.
Yep.
And here he says shadh. You should know the word shadh. Shadh, it means irregular, and in more modern terms, it means gay.
Yeah, but he means irregular. Yeah.
But here for the Arabic, it means irregular. So the Arabic of the Quran is gay, irregular, shadh, غير فصيح, not eloquent in speech.
Yeah.
And here it says in Surah 6, verse 137, your favorite Tabari says your Quran in that verse is qabih, ugly. He called it ugly, like you would call that to a person if you think is ugly. That word qabih, غير فصيح, not eloquent.
Yep.
So right, you're gonna not become Muslim at this point.
I'm very disappointed in the Islamophobia from Tabari. This is very disappointing.
Yeah. Hey David, so we were just going over why it would be a bad idea for someone like Deen, who doesn't know the Arabic, to judge for himself, if he were just to trust Tabari.
Jai, don't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Don't ask me to talk now. My internet is all over the place. I have no idea why. I'm having internet. I'm hearing like every fifth word anyone says.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we also have a bonus as well, and this one we did translate entirely because this thing we thought might be worth. Some people might be interested in this, but this is another example where not Tabari, but Muhammad's child bride Aisha, where she actually said she listed multiple errors in the Quran that are, by the way, grammatical mistakes.
Yep.
So again, if we get to the technicalities, like it's gonna go, but the point is that she said she identified 3 verses in the Quran that are grammatical mistakes, and she blamed them on scribes. Well, guess what? How they were written then are exactly how they're written today. So if they were if they were scribal errors back then that resulted in making it a grammatical mistake,
they were never corrected.
Then they were never corrected, and therefore the Quran, every Quran, I mentioned how they have like multiple Qurans today. Every Quran is gonna have actually no, maybe not every Quran. For there's a little variance on chapter 20 verse 3.
For sure.
Yeah, the Hafs for sure has all these readings.
Surah 20 verse 63, Surah 4 verse 162, and Surah 5 verse 69. All 3. Aisha, here's the word. Your mother of the believers said it's lahn. Lahn means grammatical mistake.
No, she was asked about the grammatical errors. And then she says, Yabna akhi, or son of my brother, that is a mistake of the scribe or the scribes. Akhta'u, they made mistakes in the writing. And before anyone says anything, it's authentic, sahih, ala shart al-shaykhain, which means according to the 2 sheikhs, meaning Bukhari and Muslim. So if you're a Sunni Muslim, bye-bye Quran, according to the grammar, according to Aisha herself. And we put this word using the Arabic dictionary in case people are like, well, does that really what that word means? Well, here's what it's not our dictionary, it's the Arabic dictionary.
Which is the word here for grammatical mistake. Yeah. And if you're really not sure, she says it again, khata.
Yeah.
Akhta'u, which is a modern word even that people use for mistake or error.
So yeah, very problematic for Deen to appeal to a Tabari for grammar when he doesn't know the language himself to be able to judge whether he's right or not. But if he's your ultimate source, then guess what? Your Quran, as you accept it today, is grammatically full of errors according to At-Tabari. So that's not according to us, according to At-Tabari. And then you have this additional problem, which we call a bonus. It's our gift to you, Deen, that your mother, Aisha, admitted that there are multiple other errors in the Quran as well. So
that's what we want to
do. Perfect preservation argument just sounds so bad. The more we get into this kind of stuff, it just gets worse and worse every time we get back to this. So let's check in on
perfect preservation argument has been perfectly preserved, as you can see.
You can see, yes, perfectly.
Hey, I just as you guys were just talking, with Aisha being the mother of the faithful, Muhammad's other wives being the mothers of the believers, can we make Yamama jokes but be talking about I don't know. We'll see. We'll think about it.
Think about it.
No. Someone brought this up to me in the same context as David did, saying that there's alternative interpretations like this. And this is the clip from that discussion.
This interpretation is far from what is understood in Arabic speech. Rather, it is incorrect.
Repeat that. Repeat that for us. Say that one more time.
He thinks he's cooking.
This interpretation is far from what is understood in Arabic speech. Rather, it is incorrect. So, whatever.
Okay, stop there. Do you know who Abu Ja'far is?
Sure. I doesn't know who Abu Ja'far is.
Abu Ja'far is At-Tabari. At-Tabari.
Oh,
the same guy that Sam is quoting, that is saying Muhaymin is referring to the Prophet. He's saying it's incorrect in the Arabic language to say this. It's not that it's possible and it's incorrect. It's improbable. It is grammatically incorrect.
Quran does not teach the same thing that is in our scriptures, or our writings have been corrupted. That also means
he thought he was cooking, guys. He really did.
Well,
that was just really pathetic. And then
really bad.
I mean, he clearly hasn't. He says like selectively quoting. He accused of selectively. What do you say? Selectively quoting?
Mining.
Quote mining.
Quote mining,
That's what he said. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't watch our streams or whatever. Which I mean, no hard feelings. I don't watch your videos either, Deen. But we've covered this in detail, and yeah, we know who Abu Ja'far is. When Abu Ja'far is quoted in Al-Tabri's commentary, call it Abu Ja'far or call it Muhammad, that's referring to Abu Ja'far, and we actually use that against Muslims because mostly Muslims don't know who that is. Because they usually don't read Al-Tabri, so they don't know. And not just Al-Tabri, but a lot of Muslim scholars, in their own writings, they either are referring to themselves in third person, or it's one of their students writing down, like summarizing, this is the view of Abu Ja'far, who is Al-Tabri. So there's different reasons why they would do that. But the point is that this is not some hidden information that we've hidden from the public. We've discussed this, and whenever we give views that are, let's say, not normative views, if the scholar says, by the way, I reject that view, we say that.
Yeah, we
include that. So this is
but
not.
We thought it was obvious that it wasn't about who's guarding.
Yeah, that wasn't our point.
It was about the guarding,
yeah,
which actually comes to is actually proves our point that guarding is what the Quran is doing to the previous scriptures.
Yeah. Hey, David.
Not supreme authority. Go on, sorry.
David.
What's up?
Azalea Banks just posted only on her Twitter account, just posted only a link to my video about her.
What? Where? Hang on. I don't know how to spell. I don't know how to spell Azalea.
Azealia. She just posted the link to my video. That's funny.
Well, you guys look that up. I'll play a little bit more of Deen.
Also means Islam is false because the Quran affirms the preservation
and
the inspiration of our scriptures. So Muslims, how do you get out of this dilemma?
That's the one that starts off with me, man.
Yes.
I just clicked on it. That's funny. That's funny. That's 4 minutes ago, dude. That's gonna cook. Hey, let's both share it.
Yeah,
do it. Yeah.
It's not one or the other. Actually, there's a third option that is that the Quran generally affirms the truths that are found within.
Whoa, your boy's a liar here, man. Your boy he has been multiple times. He's been called out for this. He is completely misrepresenting what this is saying here, and he keeps doing it even after.
Yeah, here Deen is going to respond to you, David, because you've called him out.
He's been corrected. He doesn't. He keeps repeating something that by this point he knows is a lie. That's interesting. So keep in mind what he does here, ladies and gentlemen. He quotes this Ibn Kathir. What this is saying. By the way, we can just read that from the beginning. Not all the way at the top, but in that section right there, the beginning of that section, and say to them, we believe in that which has been revealed to us and revealed to you. This is what Muslims are supposed to say to the people of the book. Hey, we believe in what was revealed to us and what was revealed to you, not just what was revealed to Moses that you no longer have. We believe in what was revealed to you, because the Quran says over and over again that Allah's confirming what you have, right? Means if they tell you something which you do not know to be true or false, say to them, we do not hasten to say it is a lie because it may be true, and we do not hasten to say it is true because it may be false. We believe in it in general under the condition that it has been revealed and has not been altered or deliberately misinterpreted. What is this talking about? It's talking about the same thing that you have in Surah 3, verse 78. That Jews and Christians, they have their books, but guess what? Their books are in different languages from what the Muslims, the Arab Muslims speak. And so when you're talking to a Jew about the Torah, that Jew, you don't know if that Jew is telling you what's true about the Torah or if he's making things up, if he's distorting it. Same thing with a Christian. You don't know if the Christian is speaking truly about his book or falsely about his book. What that means is when a Christian is breaking things down for you, you can't say, well, I believe it. You don't know if he's speaking the truth or not. So when you say, I believe in general, what they're talking about, I believe in the scriptures totally. I am not sure about what you're saying to me. So insofar as what you're saying to me is actually something revealed, then, I would have no problem with it, but I don't know. This, the way general is used here, DOC breaks this down. The way general is being revealed here is there's the general belief and then there's the specific belief.
Anyways, we're going to skip this waffle. That's just a bunch of waffle saying that iman and mujmalan, so a general belief, right? They're trying to link that to a concept in Islam about general belief in like articles of faith, etc. When the context is very clear, it's a general belief of the scriptures. so have a look at this.
He still has no idea. Like David just explained it, and
I think someone's about to be in trouble.
Yeah, let's let him finish, and then you guys.
Wait, is this just so we are responding to him, responding to us, responding to him, responding to IP?
Yes, we're like 8 layers in at this point.
The heck?
First, show you that Ibn Kathir clearly doesn't just mean the oral traditions that the Jews and Christians are giving. It's also the text. The text is being genuinely affirmed, and it's the text that's being genuinely affirmed, not whatever rubbish he was saying just now.
See, he doesn't understand what David was saying, but
no.
That's clear. Yeah.
No.
Let's see here.
But Deen, I'm getting shubuhat, bro. I thought the Christians are supposed to judge us. I don't understand.
So watch this. Ibn Kathir, clearly Ibn Kathir saying, in his time, you still say, yeah, we believe it in general. So first, let's put it into context. Ibn Kathir, does he believe in tahrif? Let's see. Chapter 5, verse 15. So the Prophet explained where they altered. So this is at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Where they altered, distorted, changed, and lied about Allah. You're telling me that this only means orally. He also ignored much of what they changed, since it would not bring about any benefit if it was explained in his explained. Yeah. So obviously the Prophet ﷺ isn't just talking about oral traditions, their texts, they're distorting it. So the Prophet has to clarify it. They altered, distorted, changed, and lied about Allah. Okay, and one of these words should be translated from tabdil. Tabdil means to substitute a book. Tabdil, ghayyar, as well as tahrif. These are all terms being used.
Okay.
Then here's the same exact tafsir where he says we believe in general. Look at this here. We believe in it in general, under the condition that has been revealed and not have been altered or the debate misinterpreted. Does it mean altered only in the oral sense? Let's see. Al-Bukhari recorded that Humayd bin Abdurrahman heard Muawiyah talking to a group of Quraysh in Al-Madinah. He mentioned Ka'ab al-Ahbar, may Allah be pleased with him, and said he was one of the most truthful of those who narrated from the people of the book, even though we found that some of what he said might be lies. I say this means that some of what he said could be classified linguistically as lies, but he did not intend to lie because he was narrating from manuscripts which he thought were good, but they contained fabricated material. So it's not just the oral stuff, it's the written stuff that has fabricated stuff, because they did not have people who were so conscientious in memorizing the scriptures by heart as the people of this great ummah. So Ibn Kathir says that it's not just a belief in general because of the oral distortions. There's written distortions in manuscripts in Medina.
All right, Jai DOC Wood. He's called you guys out. He says you got this all wrong. Are you gonna take that?
Okay, so let me just ask something. Let me just ask something. I'm just a half brain, right? He said they substituted it. If you substitute something, doesn't that mean you have the original?
Good point. Good point.
And if you change something, doesn't that mean you have the original and then you changed it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
He rules out that this is talking about written manuscripts, written texts. I'm talking about for chapter 5, verse 15, not for the other one that he was reading. What Ibn Kathir is, by the way, commenting on hadith, which scholars interpret in different ways. But for chapter 5, verse 15, nowhere does Muhammad ever say anything. Like, these words are used in the Quran when it talks about, like, they're corrupting by changing it from their places, for example. Right?
That means changing the words from their places. That means the places were known.
They're misinterpreting things. It's not saying textual corruption.
Yeah.
So he just like automatically ruled out that for based on nothing, like just because he says so. There's no reason to accept what he says. And then the general affirmation thing that he holds to, this is, I mean, I'll go through that real quickly, but we've already David explained it, and it went right over his head. He called it waffle and stuff like that. So I have no reason to believe that he's going to actually listen to this or understand this. But for any Muslim who might think that, Dina's a point there with that, he's getting it from this commentary here. I just took a screenshot, and he said, we believe in it in general. Okay, this is in the context of we believe in that which has been revealed to us and revealed to you. So if they tell you something, meaning the Christians and the Jews, which you do not know to be true or false, to say to them, we do not hasten to say it is a lie, because it may be true, and we do not hasten to say that it is true, because it may be false. We believe in general. And he's taking this to mean, okay, so generally we affirm it. And we've explained this, and David already explained this, but this word general here, it refers to, this is not really a good transition because it talks about, it's like a general faith or general or summary of the faith. But this is what this refers to is, it's like a concept that's in Islam. It's like, for example, if you guys are reading a commentary and the commentary makes reference to general revelation, special revelation, it's not necessarily defined in that commentary. They're just kind of assuming you understand the concept, you know the concept. They're kind of just directing you to a concept that you already know about. So, okay, what's substitutionary atonement or something? It's not necessarily going to tell you or define that in the commentary itself. It's going to say, oh, that's what this is referring to. So this is a known concept in Islam, but just like Deen doesn't know the Arabic, he doesn't know the grammar, he also doesn't understand Islam, because this is something that is basic for Muslims that they should know, because this is part of their summary of what they should. Sorry, this is a summary of their faith or what they should believe in. So all Muslims should accept this and affirm this.
By the way, when a scholar uses a term that is Islamic, like iman and mujmalan, and he uses it, he's saying that you can't use it for previous books. Why can't you? It's a term from your Allah that applies to all his books. So he's saying, oh, they get it for Islam. It's an Islamic thing, so you shouldn't apply it to the people of to the previous books. Why not? It's like Tawheed, right? According to Muslims, the original message was Tawheed. You can't say apply it to Islam only, but not to the previous books, right?
Yeah.
According to them, the Tawheed was through all the books. Same thing. The Iman Mujmalan is the general belief.
Yeah.
But the reason that they couldn't do specific beliefs is because of their ignorance.
They didn't know.
It's because they didn't know, and because your last prophet couldn't bother to tell you the details of what they got wrong or right. So he just says, just don't believe and don't disbelieve. So it's actually a deficiency on Islam itself as the last message, apparently, is because of your ignorance and the presumption that people of the book would lie, not because the books were corrupt.
Yeah, so there's this concept in Islam, like a general belief, a general faith, and then a detailed faith. And so the context is, so we believe in that which has been revealed to you and been revealed to us and revealed to you. So, okay, so it's talking about your belief in the books that have been revealed to the Christians and Jews. But because you don't know the details, you can't confirm them or deny them. So you just have to affirm a general belief, which is that saying, like how it's defined here in this book, that a person affirms all that the messenger brought in a general manner, even if he does not comprehend its meaning. Okay? And even if its detailed explanation has not reached him, there is no excuse for him to abandon this belief. So you have to accept this general belief. But the detailed faith, the detailed belief, it differs according to the people, like how much they know, how much knowledge they have. And then this one actually goes into more detail. Not every Muslim is obligated to learn the specifics or the details, but it is an obligation that does require a Muslim to believe in general. I'm not just reading it verbatim here, but you can see the highlights here if you want to see exactly what the Muslim scholars say. And so that's what this refers to. These are concepts in Islam that Deen just doesn't know about because he doesn't understand Islam that well.
And he thinks it doesn't apply to the previous books. When it comes from his own religion, it should apply to all.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like so silly.
And then chapter 5 verse 15, we have this is what he was referring to earlier. If you're going to conceal something, what does that mean? It means that you have access to it and you're just you're putting your hand over it or something, you're hiding it. It means that you have it, but you're just concealing it, you're hiding it. So it doesn't mean that you've corrupted it, right?
Yeah. So here it's 5:15 is actually rebuking the people of the book for hiding what they have from their book, not for corrupting it, which means that what they're hiding is true, because why would Allah care, right?
Yeah.
And why would rebuke them for hiding it?
And furthermore, and specifically to do with Ibn Kathir's view, if you want to look at chapter 3, verse 78, which we go to all the time, famously, you have Bukhari talking about Ibn Abbas, saying that there is no one from Allah's creation who can remove a word from the book of Allah.
From the books
of Allah. But they corrupt it, meaning they interpret it other than its correct interpretation. Okay, then Muhaymin bin Munabbah says, indeed, the Torah and the Gospel are as Allah revealed them. Not a letter has been changed in them. So, yeah, letter for letter preservation, word for word preservation.
But they've gone astray through what? Interpretation and distortion.
Yep.
And books they wrote themselves, which are different to the books of Allah.
Yep. And then you continue on, you'll get Ibn Kathir's actual view, which is at the bottom here, that if what Wahab bin Munabbah means, if he means that the books of Allah, which are his books, are from him, then they are, as he said, preserved and nothing has entered into them. So that's Ibn Kathir's. So if you want to take Ibn Kathir's view, what he actually says, this is what he says in regards to Ibn Abbas and Wahab bin Munabbah.
Yeah, and he goes through his view with like lots of detail. He says it could be the understanding that's corrupt, or even some translations in the Arabic which he thought were corrupted. But the books themselves, nothing has entered into them. And again here, As for the books of Allah, they are preserved and do not change. I'm saying it in the Arabic. فَأَمَّا كُتُبُ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مَحْفُوظَةٌ وَلَا تُحَوَّلْ. Mahfuda from the hifz, from that verse that they love.
Yeah. Chapter 15, verse 9.
Yeah.
That Allah is the preserver of the Quran.
إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. It's the same hifz thing. The books of Allah here are preserved, وَلَا تُحَوَّلْ, and they do not get changed. And here it says, مَحْفُوظَةٌ وَلَمْ يَدْخُلْهَا شَيْء. The books are preserved, nothing has entered into them. Nothing. So if you want Ibn Kathir, this is his view, and he goes into detail.
Yep.
Surah 3, verse 78.
So there you go.
Yeah. It's very, very Islamic phobic of these guys to contradict the Dawah guys. I don't think that's very polite of them. It seems just very Islamophobic to me. Incredible. So AP had to take off. He's got to pick up his kids. He says he might come back if we're still streaming. But yeah, there you have it. There's Deen Responds trying to correct giant DOC who speak Arabic on the Arabic, which was, wow, that was something.
And really, what all these Dawah guys are doing is trying to correct Allah and Muhammad.
Yeah.
Right? It's a weird situation, but we're the ones who are defending what Allah and Muhammad say, not in the sense of we want to show that the books are true or something like that, but we're saying at least get it right what they're saying, at least accurately represent what they're saying. And these guys go to just pick and choose every commentary they go to and pick and choose which parts of which commentary they go to, and all to come up with a meaning completely the opposite of what Allah and Muhammad intended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great point, by the way, because someone who comes 700 years later, like Ibn Kathir, the Islamic dilemma doesn't hinge on Ibn Kathir, right, David? So it's not
that's correct. Yeah, guys. Yeah, put it this way: we are aware of the fact that Muslims over time learn that the Bible does not line up with the Quran, and then to avoid the Islamic dilemma, they start saying our scriptures were corrupted. We are completely aware of that. Our point is, anyone who comes later and says your book has been corrupted is not saying what Allah and Muhammad say. And if you're saying no, that is what Muhammad and Allah were saying, chapter and verse.
Yep.
Chapter and verse. Where is it? Where do they say our books have been corrupted? And they can't show us because it never happens.
But even though Ibn Kathir is late, he doesn't even go as far as what Muslims are saying the books are corrupt. He says, well, maybe the translations, or maybe the understanding, or maybe the interpretation. He doesn't even go as far as they do. They go way too far. They say the books themselves have been changed and there's no original anymore. It's so blasphemous. Even Ibn Kathir would slap them around the head. He said the books of Allah preserved, nothing has changed. They got into them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about, again, these guys are all, Muhammad said, if Allah tells you something and you say, no, I'm going to go with this human being over here, then you're worshiping that human being. And that's what every single one of these Dawah guys is doing. Here's what Allah says, but let me go with this guy. Here's what Muhammad said. Let me go with this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're convincing other Muslims to use this method. Hey, think about what the Dawah guys are doing, the method that they are impressing on their followers. They're saying, you decide ahead of time what you want Allah to be saying, and then you go to endless commentaries and find the one that agrees with you and say, you see, this is what Allah is saying, even if it is completely the opposite of what Allah actually says. This is seriously dysfunctional, guys.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some super chats, but my social media guy Matt is screaming at me to make sure I just plug the channel and everything here. So just so you guys know, if you guys want to help support us, you can support us on the website, inspiringphilosophy.com. Every donation we get there, we get 100% of, so you don't have to pay like a Patreon fee or something. I'm also wearing one of our newest shirts that I have to promote, which is, I'm really proud of it. I love it. It's Jesus Christ, Destroyer of Pagan Gods. Here's the back.
But they're all the same God. All the same God.
I'm surprised no one has like made a shirt like this. Like, why are we not promoting Jesus Christ, Destroyer of Pagan Gods? But yeah, you can get one of those.
Oh, you should say Jesus Christ is the same as every other God.
All the same. Yes. Speaking of that, let's got a super chat on that. In light of recent Muslim-Christian same debate, I think the Islamic dilemma relies on the God being the same. Otherwise, the Quran can't corroborate the prior revelation since it doesn't reference Christians' thoughts. Yeah, I agree. It's wrong. Yeah. Go ahead, David.
Oh, so yeah, I'll just It's kind of hard to give the example. It's kind of hard for people to grasp the problem if you're just talking about God, because we're all thinking about God. And if you're saying, hey, the Muslims talking about God, then you're thinking that we're talking about the same thing. So you have to run the argument. You have to run the argument and see, use different ingredients and see if it pans out. So suppose Muslims come along, like not actual Muslims. Matter of fact, suppose it's some different religion, just to avoid confusion. Suppose a different religion comes along and says, we worship this goat demon as one of 1,000 goat demons that we worship. Oh, and by the way, this goat demon that we worship is the one who inspired your scriptures. And here in his mouth is the revelations of the goat demon, and his revelations in his mouth confirm your revelations. And we would say, okay, let's see what his revelations are, and let's see if they line up with ours. If they don't line up with ours, then we would say, hey, what your goat demon is saying does not line up with our revelations, and yet your goat demon is affirming our revelations, and therefore your religion falls apart. Get your goat demon out of here. So what New Gloff is saying is that if someone came up and said that, then we would have to grant that the goat demon is the same and our God is the same to have this discussion. Dude, no, I don't know what...
here's what I would say. I mean, we don't have to affirm that. What we have to say is that the Quran assumes that.
Yeah, and
we don't have to
could argue an atheist could argue the entire time, and no, you don't have to. You wouldn't have to grant. You wouldn't have to grant. If you're an atheist looking at this, you wouldn't have to say, if we're talking about Muslims, well, in order to understand that the Quran is affirming these scriptures and so on, therefore Christians and Muslims must worship the same God. You could be, no, you could, as an atheist, say, no, they're obviously worshiping different gods. Look at how these gods are described and look at what they're saying and look at the origin of these beliefs about Allah. It's a pagan origin. But nevertheless, the Quran is confirming those scriptures, and those scriptures contradict the Quran, and therefore Islam self-destructs. So people are leaning way too heavily on some argument from reference and stuff. And you're just, I'm kind of a fan of some of the common sense philosophers like Thomas Reid. Thomas Reid said, if you're walking on a path in the woods and you think, wow, what a great path. And you might be walking along that path and thinking, hey, this is great. And other people might be following you. And all of a sudden, boom, you fall into a coal pit. Say, okay, you were on the wrong path. How do you know? Well, a good path is not supposed to lead you into a coal pit. That's kind of, so he was talking about skepticism in that sense. If you have some argument about skepticism and stuff like this, and you should be skeptical about this, and it's leading you to absurd conclusions, you probably got some problems in your argument. And I would say here, if your argument is forces me to claim that if someone comes along and says, here's my goat demon and I worship a goat demon, and I say that my goat demon revealed the Bible, we have to therefore agree that we worship the same being that the goat demon worshipers are. Okay, even if I had no clue where you're going wrong, I would say you got a problem with your argument. I already know it ahead of time.
Just to summarize what all that's saying is, like, we don't have to affirm we're worshiping the same God. This is a modified internal critique. So we could just point out the Quran seems to assume that. That's why the Islamic dilemma can work. It's we don't have to assume it. The Quran assumes it, but that's the problem.
Yeah, and I don't get this whole argument, because I've heard a lot of Christians, when talking to atheists, when atheists describe what they think God is, I've heard Christians be like, yeah, well, that what you just described, that's I don't believe in that God. That's not my God. Or like, if like you have a Muslim coming and saying, oh yeah, God is not triune, and you come and proclaim, hey guys, that's what they're describing is not God. This is the true God. I don't get, because you're disagreeing with them means, oh, we're referring to the same thing. It's like, no, I'm saying that's not God. What they're proclaiming is not God. That's another God. That's a false God. This is the true God.
And in the Old Testament, the false gods did claim to do stuff that the real God does.
Right.
Like give provision, rain, fertility, all that stuff that the real God does. But nowhere in the Old Testament or anywhere in the Bible does it say, oh, because those gods claim to do the same thing as what the real God does, then we're talking about the same thing. In fact, Elijah said, pick one, either Yahweh or your gods. And they all thought that their gods, the Baal, could send fire from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that he could do the same thing as Yahweh could. Yeah. But they weren't talking about the same one, were they?
Yeah. Or like, as famously says in Joshua, like, choose this day whom you will serve. Like, choose this day whom you will serve. Like the gods over the river, or like, Yahweh, the true God. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, Yeah. And so anyway, but yeah.
Have you ever come across a scholar that makes you think who decided to give this guy who decided this guy deserved a PhD? Oh man, have I ever? Yes, I have. I've come across that a lot for sure.
Mimi Hijab.
Muhammad Hijab.
No PhD.
Does he have a PhD?
I don't think so. No, not.
He doesn't even deserve the master.
You know why we know Muhammad Hijab doesn't have a PhD? Because we've not heard it a million times.
That's true.
The moment he does, he'll never shut up about it.
Yeah,
he'll never shut up. Yeah.
I don't get it. Can his dad just give him a PhD? From,
he just went up.
Cambridge School of something.
Yeah, Cambridge Training College. Yeah.
Well, he recently has been wearing the Azhar cap. The university in Egypt, and I don't believe that, because unless he bought it from them, he can't recite the Quran. Yeah, and that's the bare minimum to get into Azhar.
If he's talking about Al Azhar or something like that, he'll get his PhD or whatever they want to give, because he'll just be like, hey, I've collected all this dirt on you about all the moonlight you're banging, so you will give me a PhD, or I will expose you and end your careers.
Yeah, I agree. He either bought that stuff off of Amazon, like the garb, the clothes that they wear, or they've really dropped their standards, because this guy, they need the money. Yeah, even though Muhammad Hijab actually speaks Arabic, he makes so many mistakes when he reads the Quran. Like that would be like so low quality of Azhar to graduate.
They wouldn't even when you apply, they do a test. We wouldn't even get through the application process to be accepted into it. He's pretending he's got a degree. How?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Hi, Pete. Well, sorry, Giovanni, you scared him away. He doesn't like it when you say hi. He gets kind of shy, so he took off. Hey, Masab just posted about Star Trek. Does this mean that he is a wingling?
Other nerds can like Star Trek. Like there were Star Trek nerds before Mike Winger ever came along. So Masab just might watch Star Trek and let's face it, Masab Hassan, you probably never heard of some loser like Mike Wingling.
So Allah just set up a battle royale. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. The Muslims are all fighting over how to solve the Islamic dilemma. It's all Allah's fault.
Or unless they were talking about, unless this is about when Allah 548, when we gave like the if we were to steal man their best argument, what would it be?
Yeah, probably.
And we said that he revealed different religions on purpose to keep them competing for good works.
To attempt to steel man their argument, impossible, but couldn't protect or guardian mean the Quran is protecting? Guardian only think those bits that agree with the Quran. Well, the problem with that is that the Quran never specifies what parts. It just talks about it all. It's just, yeah, we're affirming it. Never ever separates out certain parts. It never says any parts have been corrupted or wrong. It just says, yeah, we're affirming all these scriptures. And then it tells Christians to judge by it, but it doesn't give us any guidance on how to judge. It says judge by the gospel. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Just that. All right. Well, that's basically saying there's nothing that's corrupted in there.
Yeah. So two things. As far as steel manning the argument, you still have to you have to fit the context. 543. Jews come to Muhammad, and Allah's response is, "Why are they coming to you when they have the Torah?" What's that mean? It means you don't need Muhammad or his revelations to judge by the Torah. What does every Muslim tell us? That the Quran is affirming parts of the Torah and saying that other parts are corrupted. Well, then you would need Muhammad, wouldn't you? Don't you need Muhammad? In other words, the Quran is saying, Jews, you do not need Muhammad or his revelations when you already have the Torah. You don't need him because you have the Torah. Every Muslim is telling us you need Muhammad and the Quran to tell you what's still reliable in the Torah, which means you do need. So guys, notice the contradiction. Allah says you guys don't need Muhammad to judge by the Torah. Every Muslim you run into will say you guys do need Muhammad and his revelation to judge by the Torah. They're saying that is the exact opposite. So saying that the Quran is saying this in 548 would completely contradict what he says in 543. But again, the reasoning, 543, Jews, you judge by the Torah. 547, Christians judge by the gospel. Next verse, the Quran confirms the previous scriptures and is a guardian over them. That's one problem. It wouldn't fit the context. It wouldn't fit the context. If you're saying 548, he's saying, hey, parts are corrupted, then 543 makes zero sense. It should be, it's a good thing Jews are coming to Muhammad because they need him to tell them what the correct parts of the Torah are. So context is a huge problem. And then the other problem is when you're talking about protecting and guarding, this is the discussion about the word Muhaymin. If you're saying Muhaymin means it's only it's deciding which parts are true, then you had, guess what? You had Muslim commentators who said that the Muhaymin is Muhammad over the Quran. So that would mean that Muhammad is deciding which parts of the Quran are true. And keep in mind, a Muslim could say, well, yeah, but he decided that they're all true. It still makes him the authority, if that's the interpretation you're going with. Muhammad would be the authority over the speech of Allah. And so however you look at it, this interpretation just makes no sense.
Hey, IP, McClellan cited paper, religious credence is not factual belief. To claim religious bias is fundamentally different from secular. Read it, thoughts. Yeah, I've not read it. I just did look up the abstract here really quickly. I'll take a look at this. I'm already seeing issues in the abstract, though, because like this is a false dichotomy. I mean, you can have overlap when it comes to like a religious credence. Like I can have a religious credence that Dan McClellan is always right. Does that mean that like, and for some of his fans are going to say, yeah, he is always right. But I mean, like, I can have a religious credence that water exists. I mean, like, this is a weird dichotomy from what I'm seeing, but I will check the paper out and read it. I'm already not impressed, and I'm already seeing such like an arbitrary line that's being drawn in this. But it's a philosophy paper, let's be clear. And philosophers, as we know, disagree on literally everything. So that needs to be taken into account. This is not like a study that was done or anything like that. AP, as a cat human, you delivered another great debate. I'm now even more confident that Muslims do not worship the same God as we do. Yeah, AP did a phenomenal job for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So you talking about when they just had a live stream yesterday?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I didn't see the discussion. I did look at the comments, and the comments were seemed to be overwhelmingly in favor of AP. But are you telling me that AP, he's not even fit to be baptized yet, according to his own church, that this guy went in with Trent Doherty, philosopher extraordinaire, and Cameron Bertuzzi, and did a good job?
Did an amazing job, yes.
Huh. That's interesting. Now I think they might have a problem with their view if some random guy off the street came in and schooled them.
Oh. Giovanni says, if he wanted us to compete in good deeds, then why did he only give the Muslims bad deeds as commands? Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Just get ready for my debate coming up in a couple of weeks here on which is better for humanity, Christianity or Islam. I have done giant DOC type research when it comes to tracking down studies on the effects of Islam. So get ready.
Hey, it's kind of funny. This is a funny point. It's like if Allah means what he says in 548, that he gave, different books and revelations to different communities because he wanted them competing in good works, he sort of set up the Muslims to lose that one.
Yeah. Oh,
hey, let me give them all the evil stuff to do and banging kids and all this other stuff. Like, okay, well, you set them up to fail. That would be a funny argument, guys.
They compete because they compete in child marriage and we compete in opposing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my debate should be on, I think it's July 22nd. So yeah. If anyone wants to put a super chat in, now is the time. I don't think Giant DOC have theirs set up on their stream, but if you come over to this one, you can put a super chat in, just so everyone watching over there is aware. Giant DOC, my best friend is Shia, trying to learn the Islamic dilemma, but only knows Sunni sources. She doesn't really accept Sunni hadith, any Shia sources.
Just stick with the Quran.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
The Quran is really your best friend when it comes to the Islamic dilemma. You don't need anything else. We're just doing this because we're, just as a project, we're going over all the commentaries associated with the verses for the Islamic dilemma, but it's not required. What we've found is very helpful, but you don't need that to run the Islamic dilemma. You can even do it with a Quran only Muslim, right?
Yeah, you actually only need it for like something like 279. Where it says, oh, they wrote a book and you don't know which book it is and all that. But you don't actually need anything except the Quran, even as a Sunni. You just need the Quran. That's it.
Yeah. Is it possible?
In particular, though, for Shia sources, they are, more difficult to come by, especially in English. So I'm sure they exist, but, we just haven't incorporated that in our research for the project.
And they're also a very, very small minority that most Sunni consider them heretical anyway. So that's an issue. It's possible that Psalm 104 plays off the hymn of Aten. If so, then the writer worshiping Aten passes off Aten as Yahweh because of the original referent. Yeah, I've actually done some stuff on this. No, this is like cultic competition. And if you check out a book by James Hoffmeyer, I believe it's a book on Akhenaten. I have it somewhere around here behind me. He's putting out, they're not like directly copying. It's probably just like a hymn that was repurposed over and over again. But this is cultic competition. We see Isaiah doing this with the Baal cycle, or with like sayings like Baal is called the rider on the clouds. And they're like, oh, you think Baal's the rider on the clouds? Really, Yahweh's the rider on the clouds. This is not them saying they're the same God. This is actually used against that. They're saying, we're going to take language that your God is using, we're going to appropriate it and compete with you, and you're going to use it for our God. So in their culture, this is competition. They're applying it to Yahweh to show that he's even better than those gods. This is just a common theme throughout the ancient Near East and Egypt. So yeah, this is not them doing that. That would be misreading scripture with modern eyes.
And that's a great point, IP, because that language is very polemical against the ancient Near Eastern gods, and exactly what you said, they're actually being identified as false gods, even though they make reference to, oh, our God is the one who rides the clouds. Like, no, our God's the one who rides the clouds, and your God is false, and here's why. So actually, that's a great point in favor of them not worshiping the same God.
Yeah, you see, Muslims can't refute the Islamic dilemma because number one hero is because the number one hero is not on their side. One Punch Man. You see, oh hi IP. Who's One Punch Man?
Me.
Oh, well, you should shave your head again then.
No.
Lifelong believing and practicing Christian, but huge lack of fruit, productivity, growth in my life. How do I know if I'm truly saved? If not, what do I do? Well, the good news is you're saved by grace through faith, not of works, so that no man may boast, as Ephesians 2:8-9 says. So keep that in mind, and pray to the Holy Spirit that he will start to grow fruit in you. Pray for it. If you want to produce fruit, ask for it. And you already seem convicted that you should be doing it based on this super chat. So give into those convictions, pray, and let him grow that stuff in you. I think this is fruit in and of itself, you acknowledging this and you wanting to do better.
Yeah.
So I would say you're on the right path.
Yeah, that's something in my own life as well. Like you said, pray for fruit, and then God enters those prayers. And I'm a testimony of that. I'm sure you guys are all testimonies of that as well. When maybe there's times when, like, let's say you're like, I don't know, maybe like really busy with other things in life, and sometimes I would just sit and pray because the Lord said, "Blessed are those who thirst and hunger for righteousness, for they shall be filled." And He says that like it's not if it's not like it's they will be filled, like it's a promise. So I would pray in those times, Lord, please give me a thirst and hunger for righteousness. And every single time without fail, all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm in the word for just, all these hours and hours of just praying and feeling this like desire to just go deeper and go deeper and go deeper. So I've never been in that position where I'm not like, I'm questioning or something like that, but I've been in positions where I need that, the fire, to come back, and, don't want to like get so busy with life that you kind of like put these really, things that you should be doing to the side or something like that. And so when you do feel that way, that's a really good prayer to pray. Like IP said, pray that God will produce fruit in your life. Pray that He will give you a thirst and hunger of righteousness, and He promises He will fill. And same thing with wisdom. He actually makes a specific there's actually a specific verse in James that if you ask for wisdom, He will give it to you. And I know Mormons like to misuse that one a lot, but that is really what God's word says, and He will give you that desire, that wisdom, and those fruit.
And also, it might just be a season. Like from reading like different missionaries who go out and they'll have like no converts for years, and they think it's no fruit. And then when God decides, because God brings the increase, not you, then there'll be fruit. But then you have to be faithful in that season, I think.
Yeah.
Dawah Troll says, capturing Christianity, my hero, fan of Capturing Islam channel, big wiggling, identifies as they. Says, by the way, all religion is true, but the same that Cameron be. Excellent. Thank you, Dawah Troll. Sassy Dan is here. We always enjoy Sassy Dan showing up. Love you, AP, but I tapped out of your debate after 30 minutes when Trent said that Mo using lines from the Talmud was in his favor. Yeah, I'm just done with this whole conversation. I'm ready to move on from that.
That doesn't seem like it's going away though.
Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. Isaiah 7:114 says, Alma, then a virgin, meaning we have a virgin birth in the Old Testament, or did the meaning of Alma change in the Septuagint with Partheneos? Is it typology or exclusively about Jesus? Yeah, there's different opinions on this. It seems to be a typology because, like Paul Copan will say, it's typology, and I think Daryl Bach will say it's not. So you'll get different opinions on this, but either way you take, you could still use it to point to Jesus. Yeah, so I mean, the whole issue with the whole Isaiah 7:14 just being young woman, it says she shall give birth, and it's like, well, it's a weird sign that happens every day. How can that be a sign? So there's a whole huge debate on it. I'm not, up to date on, but yeah, that's what I would say. Different.
There's a book that I recommend by, I think his name is Christopher Rico. I'm trying to pull it up on my Kindle right now, but I can't find it. But it's on this topic of what does like Alma mean, and he actually goes into a bunch of rabbinic sources as well, where even like Rashi, for example, in Song of Solomon chapter 1 verse 3, where the plural of Alma Almot is used, and he actually says that means virgins there. And he makes a really, really strong case based on the Hebrew. And then he goes into the Greek as well, because I think that's his scholarship. It's in the Greek, but he focuses on the Hebrew as well in this book. And he makes a really strong case that, yes, it does mean virgin. And there's much scholarship to back that up. Even in rabbinic sources, that's what makes his thing so fascinating. He goes into the rabbinic sources, and then, he goes into the Greek as well. So there's no doubt there that, that's definitely referring to virgin birth.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I've not read it.
Yeah, if I find it, I'll correct the names if I said it wrong.
Sir Crumpets, hey IP, thank you for all the great content. I'm trying to open up and speak more about my faith, but I'm struggling with confidence in my speech and scared that I might misrepresent the Lord. Got any advice? Yeah, do it. Again, you can't be worried that somehow works are going to be a problem. You're supposed to go out, stumble, get picked up, keep working. The way you're going to get better at it is by doing it. Moses had a speech impediment, and God still sent him to Egypt. And then by the end of his life, he gives the speech in Deuteronomy. So he obviously grew. To grow to that level, you have to go out and start doing it. So go out, mess up a bunch of times until you get it right. But that's what you need to do. If you wanna learn to ride a bike, you got to fall a bunch of times.
I found the book. Yeah, I found the book. So it's called the Mother of the Infant King, and it's Christopher Rico and Peter Gentry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so definitely recommend that. It's a great linguistic study on the word Alma, and they go into the Parthenos in the Greek as well.
The mother of the what?
The Mother of the Infant King, Isaiah 7:14, and it's not Christopher, it's Christoph with a CHRISTOPHE.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
And then Rico, and then Peter Gentry is another Septuagint scholar.
Yep. Eastern Orthodox Patriarch Kirill said Muslims and Christians believe in same God back in 2017. Do you, if that's true or not? From what I see, B says it recorded. We just don't agree at the end of the day. AP's discussion.
Sorry, yeah, you probably don't want to keep going on about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's such a stupid topic at this point. Like, can we just get back to fighting Islam and stop fighting among ourselves? Like, honestly, this is not helping at all. This is just making things worse. And Cameron, who started this, needs to stop it.
Like David has pointed out, it's like when you say it, and the fact that you have to make like a 50-page clarification on what you don't mean, it's better just not to say it. Like, it's not helpful.
It isn't, no. Yeah. Didn't Deen argue to Avery the people of the book are the Christian converts to Islam and their interpretation of the Bible in light of the Quran? He argued that?
If that's referring to chapter 10, verse 94, I'm trying to remember if that's Deen who argued that or someone else.
It just goes to show the different answers to the Islamic dilemma all don't line up.
Yeah, I know we did some response to when they were quoting 1094, and I don't know if it was Deen or not, but someone was arguing that there are some commentaries that say that when it's referring to the people who read the book, before Muhammad, that's referring to the Christians and Jews who, you know, believed in him. And then there are just the commentators who say that it's just referring to people of the book in general. But the point of that verse that we bring out is it's the book that's authoritative, right? That's the book. It's not the people, it's the book.
Yeah.
So,
whether who's reading is converts or non-converts, it's the same book that they need to read.
That's where the authority is in the book.
Yeah. Thank you, Eddie, for the super chat. How did Mo not know enough to retell prophet stories? He probably heard them. And they called him the ear in the Quran because he just heard a bunch of stories and repeated it all. So he's probably hearing a bunch of stuff and just regurgitating what he's hearing.
No, and that's indisputable. You see that over and over in the sources. These guys get together and tell stories and recite poetry and stuff. Guys, this is before the internet. This is before television. This is before radio. How did people entertain themselves back then?
Yeah, they just sat in the desert around the fire and talked about the stories they heard.
And told stories. And Muhammad supposedly before he's a caravan robber, he's a caravan trader, and so he's traveling around and hearing stories. And guess again, that's the as IP just pointed out, that's the criticism of Muhammad in the Quran. It's this is not us saying he's getting this stuff from other people. Over and over again in the Quran, that's what the Quran responds to. Says, hey, they say, we've heard this before, you're stealing this from other people. They say, oh, he's just an ear. They say which means that this is the criticism of Muhammad during this time. Dude, you're just copying this stuff from other people who are telling the same story.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in the verse where it says, they say you're an ear, he admits, he says, yes, an ear that hears good for you. So he admits he's an ear.
Yeah.
How did this guy find a picture of me from my old rap days? I'm a little worried here. I'm secretly the mastermind behind Dawah. Yes, I am. I planned it all during my rap days, as you can see there. And it's going really well, actually. This thing has been going exceptionally well. More shirts with Jesus having insane aura, please. I love the DOPG one. Wearing it right now. Excellent. Which one is that? I don't know what that one is, but we have this one right here. Jesus Christ, destroyer of pagan gods. And then Jesus was on the back. So yeah, you get that one. That's on the website right now. Guys, you need to drop Islam and Allah for a moment and focus on taking Muslim Orthodox lesbian out. He is blaspheming against the Holy Spirit. That's what they do. They do. I mean, welcome to the party. We've been here for years. Make new merch and heavyweight gym tee. I'll buy. I think we can get it in a tank top. Can you do a tank top, LeBron? As Catholics, we believe that us and Muslims worship the same God, accept that we disagree and move on because we are not changing. Fine. Yeah. Just move on. I'm done with this nonsense. Let's just all move on from this nonsense.
We're not the ones who are bringing this up. You guys, your guys are throwing that in our faces saying, see, we're right. We all worship the same God. And we're going, no. And they're going, but we've got this argument. And we're saying, your argument sucks.
Listen, tell Cameron to knock it off. This is a distraction. It's causing more division. It's not helping. And everyone's talking about this and not important topics. So let's just move on.
And it's causing people to be more hostile against Catholicism. Guys, over the years, how much have you heard me talk about Catholicism?
None.
Until I started running my mouth recently because of stuff like this. Anyway.
Yeah, I keep seeing people, making these like Twitter threads and stuff like, oh yeah, these, like the guy said earlier, the Islamic dilemma requires same God. Like they just keep, they're not stopping. They're not stopping.
And they're bringing on yourselves.
Yeah. And then when we respond, they're like, it's like, okay. But, there are a lot of Catholics who actually disagree with that. But obviously, it's an ecumenical council. So it's like hard to maintain that kind of position. But there actually are a lot of Catholics who do, like, actually during the stream that David had, you had a lot of people giving super chat saying, hey, I disagree with it as a Catholic. So there are people who disagree with it even within Catholicism. I don't know how they kind of pair that with it being ecumenical, but they exist.
Donnie, tell Cameron to stop. That's what we need.
I have to say, it's not going to be, no, they're going to stay all day long and be giving these arguments and saying this is what we all worship the same God, and you guys shut up and don't respond. No, now you're sounding like the Dawah guys. We'll say all this. We'll say all that. We'll give all these bad arguments, but don't respond.
Yeah. how did the church react to the rise of Muhammad? Well, they had to get armies going because they were invading and conquering Christian lands. They had to fight them off as best they could. That's kind of what happened. They were trying to fight for their lives and their land for many, many years. That's how they reacted.
Yeah, I recommend reading Sophronius, who was the Patriarch of Jerusalem at the time when the Muslim armies invaded Jerusalem. And it's like very painful to read his writings. He says, he's like, these barbarians are like flooding our streets with blood. And he's like asking the question, he's like, did we do something wrong? Like, he's like asking God, like, did we do something wrong? Like, what happened? So why? It must be because we'd sinned or did something wrong. But because these guys are just, our streets are flooded with blood. We can't even go to our churches. And these godless people are, these armies of godless people are taking away our rights to go to churches. And, like this is during Christmas time. And like, we can't go to the church in Bethlehem, the Church of Nativity. And, it's like they're stopping us from worshiping. They're threatening slaughter, destruction, etc. It's really painful to actually go through the church's reaction to, I guess to early Muslims, early Muslims.
Yeah.
So,
read
Reading
God's Path by Robert Hoyland about what they were doing. It's pretty intense. Yeah. My Jesus is not for different sects of Christians to debate whether one is a true follower or not. My Jesus is truth and life. Thank you. Hey, Michael, forgive me if this is off topic, but I wanted to ask if you have any good books on the Christian perspective concerning transgenderism, homosexuality, and the science of such things. Yeah, let me grab one here.
Is it Robert Gagnon?
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
I just read it recently. Also, Sam Alberry's got a short little book that's pretty good, but I would say that one. David Wood,
great scholar on that topic.
Yeah, he's the go-to guy, Robert Gagnon. David Wood, who's stronger, One Punch Man or Goku?
One Punch Man. Although I have no idea about Goku stuff.
I'd say Goku. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that.
Then you need to watch One Punch Man.
David, why are you awake all night crashing out on X?
What's crashing out on X mean?
Crashing out is like going wild, like being crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I stay up all night because I stay up with my kid. But then I guess I crash out on X because I'm sitting there, and then like every time I go on there, I see a bunch of annoying stuff, and then I guess I crash out if I'm using that correctly.
Yeah, it's mostly like someone like freaks out or goes off or something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I guess because this morning right before I went to bed, I said something like, "Hey, I should make a video titled how Cameron Bertuzzi made me reject Catholicism or something like that."
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I saw that. I kind of was like, please don't. Can we stop? Can we just move on? But I mean, seriously.
But I thought of a funny argument, so I might make it. We'll see.
Uh-oh.
Kate Schumann says, "Where is my child? Where is he?" Yeah, where did AP go? Kate Schumann's here looking for him. Well, he went to pick up his own kids, Kate Schumann, so maybe you're going to stream a little bit with him, right, David? You're going to be on his channel like in an hour or something.
Yep, there's something he wanted to cover. Some super based Orthodox guy talking about Islam, apparently.
Excellent. So for anyone still watching, just real quick, if you wanted to help donate, again, go to inspiringphilosophy.com/give. Right now, we're actually funding some research on gospel reliability. So while the Quran is collapsing, we're actually working on some important studies. We're not doing it. Scholars are doing it. Than is helping publish some of these, but he's working with scholars to show the gospels are actually far more reliable than what people have known about in the past. And so we're putting actual mathematical models on the gospels, and the preliminary results are revealing some very interesting data. So there'll be some research coming out of undesigned coincidences and onomastic congruence as well. So donations help support that, and also keeps helping us make videos, keeps helping us research. So any donation, we really, really support. We really, really appreciate and need. So just go to inspiringphilosophy.com/give. So anything else you guys want to say before we close this out?
I would just, I want people to keep, like, everything in Dawah is basically a big smoke screen. That's what it is. It's don't lose sight of the issue. You've got almost all Muslims believing one thing, that what the Quran is really saying is that the previous scriptures have been corrupted and everyone needs to become Muslim and just go to the Quran now. And guess what? The Quran never ever says that. The Quran says the exact opposite of what Muslims actually believe. And we keep pointing that out. And we're saying, hey, if you're claiming that, chapter and verse, very easy, very easy. Give us the chapter and verse where Allah says, hey, previous scriptures have been corrupted. That's why everyone needs to go to the Quran now. And they can't. So what are they doing? They're playing like musical commentators and stuff, going to various commentators, looking for someone who agrees with them.
Yep.
And what they're eventually looking for is someone who contradicts Allah and Muhammad, says the exact opposite, and says, here's what the Quran is really saying, even though it's the exact opposite of what Allah and Muhammad are saying. Don't fall for this nonsense. What you should all be learning right now is they do not have a response. If they had a response, they would have given it. We've gone through tons of their videos and responses. What is it? Oh, well, this commentary says it's never. Here's the chapter and verse that says your book's been corrupted. Why? Because it's not what the Quran says. That's our point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's basically that. And Islam is false and Jesus is Lord. That's my final word.
Excellent. All right. We'll be. I have a video coming out tomorrow showing how ChatGPT debunks Lily J, and then I'll be streaming again Monday. So come back for that. I think we'll be doing something hilarious. But anyway, thanks for coming, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.
You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.